Chapter 1702. Tion waved his hand as his silhouette flashed, vanishing from this place. His departure caused many people in the Evergreen Kingdom to feel how mysterious he was. As for the experts from the Lifire Palace, they all sighed silently. They didn't expect the Vice Palace Lord to come as well. He should have been summoned by the Lifire Empyrean. The Lifire Empyrean truly viewed this place with great importance. Unknowingly, the Lifire Empyrean had already set up a supreme grand formation here. After Qin Wentian killed the Empyrean from the Jiang clan, he sped towards the Jiang clan. The majestic ancient palace of the Jiang clan was already empty, only a few minor characters remained. Qin Wentian discovered that the Jiang clan leader, Jiang Zihua, Jiang Ziyu, and the others, as well as those powerful immortal emperors, had all vanished without a trace. Clearly, they had long been prepared for this. Back then, if it wasn't for junior brother Qin, we wouldn't have today. We naturally have to attend his wedding. The woman smiled warmly, recalling the scenes from many years ago. At that time, the junior brother of her husband was still a disciple of the immortal Qianbian Gate. Before the Heaven Empyrean left Azure Mystic, most probably, no one would be able to change the outcome of the unification of the immortal realms. Ha, I'm naturally happy. The young man named Ouyang laughed loudly. The smile on his face was extremely radiant. Jiang Ting, who was beside him, held his hand. The two of them exchanged a smile, understanding each other's thoughts. Their good brother not only became the Heaven Empyrean and unified the immortal realms, he even wanted to hold a grand wedding with a princess of the Evergreen Kingdom. How could they not be happy? In a small city in the eastern regions of the immortal realms, there was a simple courtyard. Today, the owner of the courtyard was dressed neatly. His white robes were spotless and there was a smile on his face. Now, the beautiful woman smiled. There were even people who joked that the Heaven Empyrean unified the immortal realms. It couldn't be because he wanted to hold a grand wedding ceremony, right? He conquered the entire empire, all for the sake of winning a smile from a beauty. When this news circulated out, the entire world was shocked. For any sect, the art of cultivation was a secret that could not be passed on. Only the core disciples could inherit and cultivate it. However, Qin Wentian wanted these forces to make a copy of it and send it to the Evergreen Kingdom. This meant that from now on, those forces would no longer be the only ones. As long as the Sky Emperor wanted to, he could replace them at any time. However, news spread that the Celestial Arch had invited all the forces in the world to gather for a banquet. It was not for the sake of the empire, but for the sake of a beauty. Behind her, a figure appeared silently. Seeing her in a daze, he asked, "Xian, what's wrong?" "I want to go to a place," the woman said softly. Therefore, when Qin Wentian returned to the Evergreen Kingdom, his first order was to order everyone in the world to offer a reward for the capture of the main figures of the Jiang clan. Because the Sky Emperor is my best brother. Ouyang Guangxing laughed uproariously, causing the people around him to be stunned. Ha ha ha, the sounds of laughter were even more exaggerated than Ouyang Guangxing's. This Ouyang Guangxing must have gone mad. A beautiful maiden walked out and helped him tidy his robes. She then smiled. "Is it enough for us to rush to the Evergreen Kingdom?" For a period of time, Evergreen Qing became the target of envy and jealousy for all the females in the immortal realms. In another location, on top of a pavilion, a maiden stood there in a daze, staring at the rosy clouds in the sky. This maiden was extremely beautiful, like a fairy. Her white robes fluttered in the wind. It was unknown how beautiful she was. The people of the immortal realms all understood that with the defeat of the Jiang clan, the chaos in the immortal realms had ended. A brand new era had arrived. In addition, the Heaven Empyrean used the momentum of unifying the immortal realms to organize this wedding. From this, one could very well imagine how intense the repercussions would be. Countless experts, regardless of immortal emperors or kings, immortal foundation, or celestial phenomenon ascendants, all did their best to rush to the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom in the eastern regions. One could foresee that this would be a grand wedding that would shake the entire immortal realms. Naturally, from this point, one could tell that the relationship between the palace lord and vice palace lord was very good. It wasn't like what many people guessed, they both had ulterior motives. This caused them to feel a chill in their hearts. Seems like back then when the Liefire Empyrean was killed, the eruption of strength of the Liefire Empyrean wasn't a coincidence. The two palace lords had long planned this. This was too terrifying. The previous Liefire Empyrean was completely played by the two palace lords. Sienner, don't think too much about the past. No matter what happened in the past, I'm willing to protect you in the future. The person behind her spoke in a gentle voice. The beautiful maiden turned her head and smiled. Is that so? Vice Palace Lord. The eyes of many people in the Evergreen Kingdom flashed. These people referred to Qin Wentian as the Liefire Empyrean, and this man was actually the Vice Palace Lord? The wedding of the Heaven Empyrean, how great of a commotion would it be? One couldn't help but say that the people of the immortal realms were all very intelligent. Very swiftly, this news was verified. The Evergreen Kingdom Palace sent out news that the Heaven Empyrean would be marrying the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, Evergreen Qing. Back then, junior brother Qin left some things for us. This time around, even if we have to go bankrupt, we have to rush to the Evergreen Kingdom on that day. Lin Shuai smiled, his eyes gleaming with radiance. Junior brother Qin is about to get married. The entire immortal realms were discussing this matter. In fact, there were many people who said that this day would be the day the Heaven Empyrean ascended the throne. Nothing much, I just thought of some people and some matters. The beautiful maiden smiled. She was still staring into the distance as a figure appeared in her mind. Although this saying was a little far-fetched, there were still many people who believed it. This was especially so for the maidens. Their envy for Evergreen Qing had reached the extreme. For her, the Heaven Empyrean conquered the entire world. How romantic was this? Qin Wentian, after his return, in an extremely short period of time, he became the sovereign of the myriad Devil Islands, the Heaven Empyrean of the immortal realms. Right now, with a single command from him, he could command all the powers in the world. After the two Empyreans from the Jiang clan were killed, on the other side of the battlefield, the battle in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace also ended. Di Tian's sealing arts sealed the Empyreans from the Ying clan as well as the Jiang clan. After that, a sealing gate descended as the two Empyreans completely vanished. This was the price they had to pay for their choice back then. As the losers, they had to bear the consequences of their defeat. Back then, if they chose to submit to Qin Wentian, right now, they would most probably be sitting in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, enjoying their victory. The beautiful eyes of Qing, and Mo Qingqing flashed with a bright light. Chongqing the Great's eyes gleamed with sharpness, as though he was contemplating something. If this was in normal times, this would be a great taboo, a declaration of war. The tripartite balance of power in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms didn't exist for too long before it was completely destroyed. From now on, there would only be one person in the world, the Heaven Empyrean. Where? The man asked. Ha ha ha. Loud laughter rang out. Ouyang Guangsheng and Jiang Ting didn't mind it. The two of them continued laughing, not saying anything. Ouyang, why are you so happy about the wedding of the Heaven Empyrean? Someone beside them asked the man in the couple. The heavenly talisman realm disintegrated, the Empyreans of the Jiang clan were all killed and the core members of the Jiang clan fled. The Jiang clan only existed in name now. Is there a need to go there to join in the fun? This time around, all the major characters in the immortal realms are going to gather here. Do you really need to be like this? The person beside him laughed. The Heaven Empyrean was Qin Wentian. He owed the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, Evergreen Qing, a wedding. In another location in the immortal realms, there was also another couple who was currently rushing over, doing their best to rush towards the Evergreen Kingdom. They also had the same thoughts as Lin Shuai, they didn't mind spending all their wealth to borrow the power of the teleportation array, wanting to rush there to congratulate Qin Wentian on his wedding day. The woman smiled, glancing at her husband with a gentle gaze. After learning that her junior apprentice brother had become the Heaven Empyrean, her husband wasn't willing to go there to bask in the limelight. He still wanted to rely on himself and walk his own path. However, after hearing that the Heaven Empyrean was going to get married, her husband immediately changed his mind. He was such a person, strong, yet filled with emotions. Even if it was such an order, how could they not obey? The Heaven Empyrean issued an order for all the major powers to send their cultivation arts to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom on the same day. Similarly, on this day, the Heaven Empyrean also gave the order for a grand banquet to be held. He would redistribute the various powers in the world today. Everyone understood that this was to divide the territories, allowing the major powers under his control to truly control the entire world. What a cunning fellow! Qin Wendian silently mused. His immortal sense enveloped the city the Jiang clan was in, but he still couldn't find the silhouettes of Jiang Zihua and his brother. Since they wanted to hide, most probably, they have already fled to a faraway place. Right now, the Heaven Empyrean unified the world. Many people guessed that he wanted to compensate Evergreen Qing by holding a grand wedding that would shake the entire Azure Mystic. But now, even if Qin Wendian declared war, would those major powers dare to accept it? The Evergreen Kingdom. The young woman spoke. Over 100 years ago, the Heaven Empyrean was hated by all the major powers in the immortal realms. They surrounded the Evergreen Kingdom, and even though the Heaven Empyrean knew that he would die for sure, he still chose to enter the Evergreen Kingdom Palace because he didn't want to implicate his beloved. On that day, the Heaven Empyrean proposed to the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, who was later known as the white-haired killing goddess, Evergreen Qing. The Heaven Empyrean was his best brother. The news soon circulated. After the Heaven Empyrean and the Samsara Immortal Emperor joined forces to destroy the Heavenly Talisman Realm, the Heaven Empyrean domineeringly went to the Jiang clan to challenge him and killed him. At the same time, there was also an ancient emperor from the Jiang clan as well as an Empyrean from the Ying clan who ambushed the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. However, they were all killed by a mysterious Empyrean who borrowed the power of a formation. Right now, the Evergreen Kingdom had an extremely terrifying grand formation. This undoubtedly caused many people to feel threatened. Stepping out, Qin Wendian directly departed. He didn't start a massacre here. It was meaningless to kill weaklings, but the core characters of the Jiang clan had to die. When he shouldn't be merciful, he mustn't be merciful. Jiang Zihua was such a sinister character and his talent was extremely high. If he left him alive, he would only be a scourge. Qin Wendian might not be afraid, but he didn't want the people around him to be harmed because of him. The eyes of the young man flashed with a bright light. After that, he smiled. The wedding of the Heaven Empyrean, Evergreen Qing, is envied by all the females in the world. Sienna, you also wish to go and watch. Since this is the case, when should we set off? The power of the formation gradually calmed down. The experts from the Evergreen Kingdom Palace all stared at Di Tian in astonishment. At this moment, the supreme ancient army brought by Qin Wendian flashed as they bowed to Di Tian. We pay our respects to Vice Palace Lord. Naturally. The other party nodded. Chapter 1703. With the unification of Azure Mystic and the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean, the entire immortal realms shook. The gazes of everyone in Azure Mystic were all focused on the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Right now, this royal capital had a new name. This was the intention of Chongqing the Great. Right now, not only were there experts from the Evergreen Kingdom, there were also experts from the Namhuang clan, the Myriad Devil Islands, Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and many others. If they continued to use the name of the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, it wouldn't be too appropriate. It would make the other powers feel like they were relying on the charity of the Evergreen Kingdom. In addition, he was Qin Wendian's father-in-law. It was even more important for him to avoid arousing suspicions. Hence, the Evergreen Immortal Emperor took the initiative to suggest changing the name of the city. Many people didn't object. Right now, Qin Wendian already had the title of the Heaven Empyrean and became the #1 character in Azure Mystic, the #1 emperor throughout the ages. Since he decided to stay in this city, he also allowed the major powers to relocate here. This city became the center of azure mystic and was the center of attention. Hence, Qin Wentian also agreed. At the entrance of the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, a new name was hung up. Heaven Empyrean City. Heaven Empyrean City was expanded, its territory extended out in all directions, all of them were absorbed into Heaven Empyrean City. Countless experts from the immortal realms rushed over to Heaven Empyrean City, all of them were here for the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. They didn't dare to imagine how grand the wedding of the Heaven Empyrean would be. As for the wedding, there were naturally people helping Qin Wentian to prepare. Nanfeng Yaoyue, GD, and the experts from the Lifire Palace were all busy. If this was in the past, it would be hard to imagine that they would help others to prepare for their wedding. In the past, such matters were nothing but mundane matters to them. But this time around, it was different. This was the wedding of Qin Wentian and Qing Er. During this period of time, Di Tian went to open the seal on the particle world. Back then, he had no other choice but to seal the particle world. Now that Eastern sage has died, how could he not invite his foster father to attend the wedding? In addition, regardless of Qin Wentian or Mo Qingcheng, it has been several hundred years since they last saw their family. They naturally missed them very much. In the Chu country of Grand Xia, the Qin clan was now the #1 power in Chu. Back then when Qin Wentian left the sealed particle world, Di Tian sealed the cultivation bases of all the invaders, making them stay behind to guide the people of the world. He also left behind many treasures in the Qin clan. In addition to the fact that Qin Wentian was the #1 expert under the heavens, one could very well imagine the development of the Qin clan. Even after so many years, the Qin clan had already undergone a complete transformation, becoming a first-rate power in the particle world. Naturally, the person in charge of the Qin clan now was no longer Qin Chuan. He had long retired and left the Qin clan to Qin He to manage. At this moment, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng's silhouettes landed outside the Qin residence. Qing'er didn't come. This time around, Qing'er was the bride and she had to make some preparations. And since he made a trip to the particle world, other than to fetch his family members, he naturally had to fetch Qingcheng's family members as well. As for whether they would choose to stay in the particle world or follow him, Qin Wentian wouldn't force them. He would let them make the choice themselves. Everyone had their own life to live. He wouldn't force his way of thinking onto others. Staring at the majestic residence before him, a radiant smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He thought that after he sealed the particle world back then, he wouldn't be able to return for a very long time. He didn't expect that he would be able to return home so soon. No matter where he went, no matter how far he walked, this place would forever be the home he grew up in. The guards of the Qin residence stared at the two of them. Their auras were too outstanding. Although Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng retracted their auras, they were still breathtaking. Maybe they didn't have much of a feeling towards Qin Wentian's aura, but for a supreme beauty like Mo Qingcheng, no matter who it was, they couldn't help but to steal a few more glances at her. How beautiful, even the #1 beauty in Chu would feel inferior in front of her. The guards of the Qin residence silently mused. At this moment, a group of silhouettes walked out from the Qin residence. The person in the lead had an imposing appearance and was extraordinarily handsome. He was clad in luxurious robes and had a cultivation base at the Heavenly Dipper realm. There were many people following behind him, all of them were his guards. This was a descendant of the Qin clan, Qin Yang. The instant Qin Yang saw Mo Qingcheng, he found it hard to shift his gaze away. She was too beautiful. As a disciple of the Qin clan, he had outstanding talent and a high status in Chu. He had even wooed the #1 beauty in Chu before. But compared to the #1 beauty in Chu, the #1 beauty in Chu was simply too tacky. "My name is Qin Yang, may I know the name of Miss?" Qin Yang smiled. As for Qin Wentian, he was completely disregarded by Qin Yang. Qin Wentian laughed. Given Mo Qingcheng's current beauty and demeanor, ordinary people would find it hard to resist her. He smiled as he held Mo Qingcheng's hand, staring at Qin Yang. Being able to reach the heavenly dipper realm at such a young age, he was indeed a good seedling. Qin Yang's eyes narrowed when he saw Qin Wentian's actions. I wonder what instructions does Miss have for coming to my Qin residence. We are here to pay our respects to old Master Qin of Qin Creek. Qin Wentian smiled. Impudent. Qin Yang coldly snorted, glaring at Qin Wentian as he icily stated, the name of the old master isn't something you can call out. Men, take him down. As the sound of his voice faded, several people rushed forward and surrounded Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian froze, his earlier good mood was instantly destroyed. He stared at Qin Yang as he asked, who is Qin he to you? Take him down. Qin Yang waved his hands as he spoke. His gaze shifted to Mo Qingqing as he smiled, Miss, if there's anything you need, I can be of service. Mo Qingqing's countenance turned cold as she stared at Qin Yang. Back then, the Qin clan was a clan of iron-blooded men. Now, they had actually nurtured a silk pants. A surge of might gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Instantly, those surrounding him stiffened. Qin Yang's countenance changed, he stared at Qin Wentian only to see Qin Wentian walking forward as he asked again, who is Qin he to you? You dare to be so impudent in my Qin residence? Qin Yang could sense that Qin Wentian's aura was much stronger compared to his. Qin Wentian didn't waste words with him. His immortal sense instantly enveloped the entire Qin residence. In the depths of the Qin residence, Qin Chuan was currently lying in his courtyard, basking in the sun. Qin Yao was beside him, chatting with him. This lass, there are so many outstanding males in Grand Xia wooing you, yet you refuse to marry them. How long do you want me, this old man, to wait? Qin Chuan's eyes flickered with a doting light as he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Father, isn't it good for your daughter to always accompany you? Qin Yao spoke in a sweet voice. It's all that brat Wentian's fault. That fellow's talent is obvious for all to see. Are you looking down on all males? Qin Chuan pretended to be angry. It's all that brat's fault. The next time we see him, should we give him a good beating? Qin Yao smiled. Yes, we must give him a good beating. Qin Chuan smiled as he nodded. His eyes were filled with longing as he mumbled, I wonder how that fellow is doing now. Father, sister, I'm here to be beaten up. A voice suddenly drifted over. Qin Chuan and Qin Yao's bodies trembled violently as their hearts pounded. Qin Chuan abruptly stood up as he called out, Wentian. Father, your son is unfilial. It has been so many years since I came back to see you. As the sound of the voice faded, two silhouettes appeared in front of Qin Chuan. Upon seeing these two, Qin Chuan and Qin Yao's bodies trembled even more violently. Qin Chuan laughed uproariously as his eyes reddened. His body trembled as he walked forward, placing his hands on Qin Wentian's shoulders. Good, it's good that you're back. Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he said, Good, it's good that you're back, father. Qin Wentian hugged Qin Chuan, as Qin Chuan patted his back harshly. After the separation of father and son, Qin Wentian glanced at Qin Yao. Qin Yao's eyes were already red as tears flowed down her cheeks. She was currently wiping them away with her hands. Qin Wentian called out, Sister. Qin Yao nodded her head heavily, involuntarily recalling the events of her youth. Back then, she would always bully Qin Wentian, forcing him to carry her on his back. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, a few hundred years had passed? Qin Wentian walked to Qin Yao's side and gave her a tight hug. The tears in Qin Yao's eyes could no longer be restrained as they flowed unceasingly. Father. Qingqing bowed to Qin Chuan. Qingqing, good, very good. Qin Chuan nodded his head forcefully, only to see numerous silhouettes rushing over. Qin He, Qin Yi, as well as the second-generation Qin Shang and Qin Ji, as well as their descendants. Very swiftly, the courtyard was filled with people, and the sounds of whispers could be heard unceasingly. Everyone stared at the two silhouettes standing in the middle of the courtyard, and they already knew who they were. Qin Wentian, the people of the Qin clan, had returned. Uncle. A voice drifted over. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over only to see a beautiful lady running to his side. She had a bashful expression on her face as she tilted her head up and stared at him. You are Xan. Qin Wentian smiled. Qin Xan nodded her head vigorously. Ha, little lass, you've already grown up. Qin Wentian hugged Qin Xan. Back then when he left this particle world, Qin Shang's daughter was only 8 years old. Now, she was already a slender and elegant woman with a cultivation base at the peak of Heavenly Dipper. Qin Xian's face flushed red, but she still felt warmth in her heart. Back then, although she was only 8 years old, she would never be able to forget her uncle's glory. Wentian. Qin he walked out and called out. Right now, he already exuded an imposing aura. Second uncle. Qin Wentian smiled as he greeted. Qin Yang, scram out here and kneel. Qin he coldly snorted. Qin Yang immediately walked out from the crowd, trembling with fear. He was so scared that his legs had gone soft. He was actually Qin Wentian, the legendary character of the entire world, the faith of the Qin clan, the god of Chu. Qin Yang is muddle-headed. Qin Yang knelt on the ground. It's fine if we spoil you normally, but you actually don't know what's good for you. You are getting more and more insolent. If it wasn't for the fact that the person we met today wasn't your uncle, wouldn't the Qin clan be in trouble? Drag him out and break one of his legs. Qin he icily spoke. What's going on? Qin Chuan asked. Qin he told Qin Chuan about what happened earlier, causing Qin Chuan's countenance to turn cold. Break both his legs. Qin Chuan icily spoke. Who was Mo Qingcheng? She was Wentian's wife. This unfilial descendant actually dared to offend her. Father, second uncle, forget it. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. It was rare for him to return home, he didn't want to cause any unhappiness. Wentian, it's already a shameful matter for the Qin clan to produce a silk pants. Now that he even offended you, how can we forgive him? Drag him out and break both his legs. Qin he coldly waved his hands. Qin Wentian didn't try to stop him. He could heal broken legs, but if the descendants of the Qin clan were all like this, it wouldn't be a good thing. He decided to teach the descendants of the Qin clan a lesson. Chapter 1704. Qin Yang was brought away. His father was the son of Qin Shang, Qin Qi. His mother was also a member of a major clan in Chu. When they heard that their son's leg was about to be broken, both of their countenances turned extremely unsightly. But since Qin Chuan and Qin he had already spoken, they knew that it was useless even if they begged for mercy. Hence, their gazes towards Qin Wentian involuntarily turned somewhat cold. Qin Wentian naturally felt it as well. Right now, the Qin clan had expanded by many times compared to the past, becoming a true aristocratic clan. However, it was no longer the same as before. It was inevitable for a great clan to produce silk pants. This could be considered as a lesson for the younger generations. Naturally, other than Qin Yang's parents, many others were still staring at Qin Wentian with fanaticism in their eyes. This was especially so for those of the older generations. Qin Wentian had left for 200 years. The younger generations had only heard of his story, but they had never truly experienced that era. They didn't understand what sort of transcendent status Qin Wentian had. But for those of the older generations, they all knew what sort of legend Qin Wentian was. All of you can leave now. What's with all of you crowding around here? Qin Chuan waved his hands, not wanting to disturb the reunion between him and Qin Wentian. The gazes of everyone were still fixed on Qin Wentian. The fanaticism in their eyes was filled with reluctance, as though they wanted to take a few more glances at him. Some of the youths wanted to step forward, yet they didn't dare to. They could only follow their elders and leave, leaving only a few important people behind. The courtyard quieted down again, but the entire Qin clan was in a commotion. The legendary character of the Qin clan, Qin Wentian, had returned. The people of the Qin clan had long since memorized many of his legends. Today, they personally saw him in person. However, that damnable bastard Qin Yang actually dared to offend the legendary character of the Qin clan. What a bastard! No wonder the clan lord and old man were so angry. Father, it's only right for me to see my family. Qin Wentian stared at Qin Chuan as he spoke. Now that there are so many people in the clan, you wouldn't like it to be so noisy. In addition, Qin Cheng is here as well. Qin Chuan waved his hands. Qin Cheng, that bastard Qin Yang offended you. It was my fault for not disciplining him properly. Father, it's nothing. Mo Qin Cheng shook her head. It wasn't a big deal, it was just a small offense. However, she also understood that Qin Wentian and Qin Chuan both wanted to curb this silk pants attitude of theirs. Hence, she didn't say anything earlier, she just wanted to let that young man suffer a little. As for his injuries, they could naturally be healed. Father, there's no need to be so polite with Qin Cheng. Qin Wentian held Qin Cheng's hand as he smiled at Qin Chuan. Yes, you've been married for so many years, why should I be polite? Qin Chuan laughed. Oh yeah, did Qin Cheng return to the Mo residence? Your grandpa and parents would often come to chat with me. They miss you very much. Back then when Qin Wentian fought against the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, he sent his family and friends back to his particle world. After that, he sent people to fetch them back. At that time, the people of Qin Chuan and the Mo clan all chose to stay behind and didn't return to the immortal realms. This place was their route. Not yet, I'll pay my respects to father first before heading to the Mo residence. Mo Qin Cheng smiled. This old man of mine is doing very well. Wentian, bring Qin Cheng to the Mo residence to see her parents. Qin Chuan waved his hands. Qin Wentian knew that Qin Chuan was doing this for him and Qin Cheng. He felt warmth in his heart as he spoke. Father, how can I chase them away the moment I returned? Since I'm already here, why would I be in such a rush? What are you saying? You know that you are here to visit me. Could it be that Qin Cheng doesn't want to see her family? Qin Chuan glared at Qin Wentian and waved his hands. Go. Okay, I'll go now. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. Father, this time around, I'm here to bring you to the immortal realms. Qin and I are going to be married soon. Married soon? Qin Chuan started. After that, a smile appeared on his face as he nodded heavily. Right, foster father will definitely go. Father, uncle, I'll head over first. I'll be back soon. Qin Wentian smiled. As he spoke, a spatial gate appeared. Qin Wentian pulled Mo Qin Cheng's hand and stepped into it, directly disappearing from sight. He didn't reject Qin Chuan's good intentions. After all, to him, the distance between the Qin residence and the Mo residence was just a matter of a single thought. He could come back and forth any time he wanted, there was no need for him to be polite. Qin Chuan and Qin Yao saw Qin Wentian directly stepping into the spatial gate. They stared at the disappearing spatial gate and were speechless for a very long time. That brat, how strong is he now exactly? Qin Chuan's voice trembled as he asked Qin Yao. Qin Yao's eyes were still red. Although she was smiling, there were tears in her eyes. She choked with sobs as she replied, Father, why are you asking me? How would I know? I'm afraid it's already a realm that we can no longer know. Although the Mo clan wasn't as glorious as the Qin residence, it was still extremely prosperous now. With the relationship between Qin Wentian and Mo Qin Cheng, in addition to the fact that Mo Qin Cheng's family chose to stay in this particle world, Qin Wentian and Mo Qin Cheng had left behind many good things for them. They even helped Mo Feng and Mo Yu to change their physiques. Right now, Mo Feng was already the clan leader of the Mo clan. Qin Wentian and Mo Qin Cheng directly arrived outside the Mo residence. He held Mo Qin Cheng's hand as they walked towards the Mo clan. At this moment, Mo Feng was currently gathering the experts of the Mo clan, preparing to head out to handle some matters. Just as they exited the Mo residence, they saw Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing walking over. Mo Feng was instantly stunned. The other members of the Mo clan stared dumbfoundedly at Mo Qingqing, silently musing at how beautiful this maiden was. In the next instant, a look of wild joy appeared on Mo Feng's face. He kept the divine weapon in his hand and instantly sped towards Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing. When he saw Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing smiling at him, Mo Feng's eyes turned slightly red as he called out, "Brother-in-law, sis Qingqing. Good brat, you are already so powerful." Qin Wendian laughed. Right now, Mo Feng's cultivation base was already at the celestial phenomenon realm. Mo Feng smiled as he scratched his head. He knew that this little bit of cultivation base was simply insufficient in front of his brother-in-law. "Brother-in-law, if you are willing to teach me cultivation, I would definitely not be at my current level." Mo Feng laughed. Mo Qingqing rolled her eyes. "You are truly intelligent. How would your brother-in-law have the time to teach you?" "Arg!" A shrill scream rang out. A beautiful maiden dashed towards Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing. Her face was bright red. It was none other than Mou. "Little lass Mou, what are you screaming for?" Qin Wendian laughed as he stared at Mou, whose face was burning red. "Mo Feng, am I dreaming?" Mou rubbed her eyes as she asked. "Ha!" Qin Wendian laughed as he ruffled Mou's hair. These two little fellows weren't young anymore, and their cultivation bases were extraordinary as well. Yet, they were still acting like children in front of him. Little did he know that at this moment, the members of the Mo clan were completely dumbfounded. The clan lord and cold-faced goddess who were usually incomparably imposing were actually acting like children. Who were these two people exactly? Brother-in-law? Elder sister? Their hearts pounded violently as they thought of a legendary character in the Mo clan. She was once the #1 beauty in Chu, and after that, she joined the Pill Emperor Hall and eventually married Qin Wendian. She was the legend of their Mo clan. And now, this couple had returned. Upon thinking of this, the faces of the younger generations of the Mo clan all turned red as they stared at Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing. "Brother-in-law, you are really back." Mou's beautiful face was flushed red from excitement. "Michum, we are back." Qin Wendian nodded. "Mo Feng, what are you guys doing?" Mo Qingqing asked. The smile on Mo Feng's face stiffened. After which, he spoke, "Elder sister, let's not talk about this first. Let's return home first. Little brats, all of you get out of my way." Mo Feng turned and grinned. The crowd parted to form a path as an extremely young and beautiful maiden walked over and called out, "Aunt, uncle." Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing both glanced at Mo Feng only to hear Mo Feng saying, "This is my daughter, Shiyao. I've already become an aunt." Mo Qingqing smiled at Qin Wendian. Her gaze towards Shiyao was filled with doting love as she asked, "Shiyao, what gift do you want?" "Aunt, there's no need." Mo Shiyao shook her head. "Silly lass." Mo Qingqing smiled. A wisp of holy light from Qin Wendian landed on Shiyao. The resplendent light of life caused Mo Shiyao to feel extremely comfortable. Her eyes flashed with a strange light as she timidly glanced at Qin Wendian before lowering her head. In the Mo residence, upon learning that Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing had returned, everyone in the residence came out to welcome them. Mo Qingqing's grandfather and parents were all extremely happy. Qin Wendian stood there, a warm smile on his face as he stared at Mo Qingqing and her parents hugging each other. "Wendian." Old man Mo glanced in the direction of Qin Wendian. "Is old man doing well?" Qin Wendian smiled as he asked. The grudges between them in the past had already vanished like smoke in thin air. "Michum, I'm doing well. It's just that I haven't seen you guys for many years and would often think of you. I would also frequently visit your foster father's place." Old man Mo smiled. Foster father also told me that if old man feels bored, you can move to the immortal realms in the future. The immortal realms would definitely be much more interesting compared to the particle world. I'm just afraid that my old bones wouldn't be able to withstand the torment. Old man Mo laughed uproariously. Men, quickly prepare a banquet. Mo Feng, send someone to the Qin residence to fetch old man Qin and the others over. Today, they will be having a banquet at my Mo residence. Right. Mo Feng nodded. Mo Feng, wait a minute. Qin Wendian called out. He walked to Mo Shiyao's side and asked, Shiyao, what's going on with your injuries? Earlier, the life energy radiating from him was healing Mo Shiyao's injuries. Given his cultivation base, how could he not be able to tell that Mo Shiyao was injured? Brother-in-law. Mo Feng found it hard to speak. You speak. Qin Wendian stared at Mo. In this world, there's actually someone who dares to touch the people of my Mo residence. The experts of the Mo clan felt their hearts trembling when they heard Qin Wendian's words. How tyrannical, as expected of a legendary character. Brother-in-law, back then in the battle in your particle world, you sealed many immortals and allowed them to come to Chu to educate the people of the world. As long as one of their disciples joined their sect, they couldn't reject and had to guide them. Because of this, our Chu country produced some extremely powerful characters. But now, a disciple of an immortal. That bastard actually. Mo's countenance turned red from anger. He played with Shiyao's feelings. Mo coldly spoke. Enough, Wendian isn't an outsider. Just speak frankly. That bastard intentionally tried to woo Shiyao and Shiyao agreed to be in a relationship with him. That bastard wanted to take things a step further but Shiyao didn't agree. Old man Mo coldly spoke. Hence, that bastard actually found a few women to do that kind of thing and even intentionally let Shiyao see it. He insulted Shiyao for wanting to give him face but Shiyao rebuked him and was injured by him. Mo's countenance was extremely ugly to behold. Brother-in-law, I want to kill that bastard. Mo Feng icily spoke. Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing finally understood why Mo Feng brought his men out earlier. Since he is the disciple of that immortal who stayed behind, could it be that he doesn't know what relationship I have with Qingqing? Why would he dare to do such a thing? Qin Wendian's tone also turned cold. Mo spoke, that's right, Mo. Mo Feng interrupted her. Mo glared at him, don't stop me. Brother-in-law, there's a high possibility that this immortal has a grudge against you and instigated his disciple to do this. He wants revenge and if it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation base was sealed, he would have already acted personally. Chapter 1705. Qin Wendian's expression turned completely cold. Back then during the battle between the Dongshengshan Gate and the immortal Qianbian Gate, the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor was defeated and sent people to ambush him in his particle world, wanting to use this method to lure him over. He used Di Tian's body to descend into the particle world and killed the blazing fiend Immortal King, sealing an Immortal King and a group of immortals, allowing them to stay in Chu to guide the people of Chu in cultivation. Who would have thought that even now, there would still be trouble left behind? There were immortals who wanted to use the disciples they nurtured to deal with his kin. Seems like after being sealed for hundreds of years, they couldn't endure it any longer and were filled with resentment. Mo Qingqing walked to Shiyao's side and lightly hugged her. Shiyao, did he hurt you? No, aunt, I was only humiliated a little and suffered some minor injuries. Mo Shiyao's eyes were red as she shook her head. Unforgivable. Qin Wendian coldly spoke. Brother-in-law, I've lost face for you. Mo Feng lowered his head as he spoke. Qin Wendian waved his hands. His immortal sense gushed out, instantly enveloping the entire Chu country. All the immortals who were sealed were found by him and appeared in his mind. Also, the things they were doing now were all displayed in his mind. Among them, in front of a palace, there were many people gathered there. There was an immortal king who was sealed and there were also many other immortals gathered here. Other than them, there were also some juniors at the Celestial Phenomenon Realm and Heavenly Dipper Realm. In a particle world, this could be considered an extremely powerful force. Master, The Mo clan should be preparing to deal with us. We have waited for so long, we will definitely make sure that they won't be able to return alive. A peak-level ascendant spoke. His master was none other than the sealed immortal king. With the guidance of an immortal king, it was no wonder that he could reach such a high cultivation realm. That immortal king closed his eyes, but a cold expression could be seen on his face. I'm still a little worried. It's said that that fellow once controlled the strongest power in this particle world. Although the Medicine Sovereign Valley is in seclusion, they once belonged to him. Would he still have some trump cards hidden in this particle world? An immortal spoke. What's there to be afraid of? The powerful ones have all been brought away. Also, he has offended many major characters of the immortal realms and hasn't returned for several hundred years. Don't you guys understand? Someone spoke. You mean, he's already dead? It's very normal for experts in the immortal realms to die. This is especially so for those who have shown off their brilliance. They didn't return home for a few hundred years, there's an 80% chance that they have already died. We have always endured and didn't touch the Mo clan, initially wanting to slowly torture them, starting from the descendants of the Mo clan. But this time around, since all pretense of cordiality has already been shredded, we might as well be more direct. An immortal coldly spoke. That's right. Master, please bestow Mo Shiryao to me. This woman actually dared to reject my request. I'm definitely going to have some fun. A young man at the high-level celestial phenomenon realm looked rather handsome, but at this moment, his expression was somewhat sinister. Fine. Since Mo Shiryao's master has no objections, how can master not agree? That immortal king opened his eyes and smiled at an immortal foundation expert. This man was none other than Mo Shiryao's master. Mo Shiryao had chosen to take him as her master. Not only for Mo Shiryao, many people in Chu had chosen to take these immortal kings as their masters as well. There were also quite a few from the Mo clan. Many thanks for master's help. Sadly, that Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to see this scene. If not, even if he died, he would definitely regret his actions back then. Ling Teng laughed. When he thought of Mo Shiryao's beauty, a fire burned in his heart. What a shameless woman. That immortal king and the other immortals all had cold expressions on their faces. Someone spoke, not only do we want to make him regret. After the Mo clan, it's the Qin clan. I want Qin Wentian to live a life worse than death even if he didn't die. Is that so? A voice suddenly drifted over. As the sound of this voice faded, the wind and clouds howled in the air. The countenances of the immortals all stiffened. Ling Ting coldly spoke, who is it? A terrifying whistling sound rang out in the air. After that, rumbling sounds rang out as the palace was directly torn into pieces. The countenances of the group of them were filled with shock. They only saw an extremely terrifying spatial energy tearing everything apart. After that, the space in the surroundings became chaotic, unceasingly fluctuating. Behind them, a terrifying spatial vortex appeared. After that, something seemed to have opened up as a spatial passageway appeared between the heavens and earth. At the other end of the spatial passageway, they saw a group of people standing there. That place seemed to be the Mo clan. The person in the lead had his hands clasped behind his back. His cold gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through space, landing on them. When they saw clearly who this person was, their countenances instantly turned pale. All of them were so frightened that their bodies trembled. An uncontrollable terror rose up in their hearts. Qin Wentian has returned. In addition, he became even stronger than before, directly opening a spatial gate, disregarding distance. What cultivation realm was this? That immortal king had a look of shock on his face, as though his heart was struck by lightning. Even immortal emperors wouldn't be able to achieve such a feat. He instantly felt boundless regret. Since Qin Wentian has already reached such a level and returned here, he should be prepared to spare them. But now, when he thought of this, the other immortals naturally thought of it as well. Their countenances turned as pale as paper. At this moment, how could the people of the Mo clan not be incomparably shocked? Qin Wendian actually waved his hand and directly opened a spatial gate, disregarding distance, allowing them to see the situation over there. That Ling Teng was none other than the person who humiliated Mo Shiyao. Shiyao, is it him? Numerous strands of spatial energy transformed into spatial threads, directly binding Ling Teng. In an instant, Ling Teng's body was covered by millions of spatial threads, causing him to be unable to move. Mo Shiyao nodded her head with reddened eyes. Shiyao, this ant-like person isn't worthy of you at all. There's no need to feel pity for his death. As long as you are willing, you can always find someone better. In the future, you will definitely become an immortal. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. Right now, he had such confidence. Immortals might be lofty existences in particle worlds, but to him who has already transcended the immortal emperor realm, as long as he was willing, it wouldn't be too difficult to nurture an immortal. A casual sentence from him caused the hearts of everyone to tremble violently. The people of the Mo clan stared at him with boundless reverence in their eyes. Was this the legendary son-in-law of the Mo clan? An immortal was nothing in his eyes. As long as Shiyao was willing, he would be able to help Shiyao become an immortal. Uncle. Mo Shiyao's tears flowed. She leaned into Mo Qingqing's embrace. Mo Qingqing patted her on the shoulder, silly lass. Shiyao, I was wrong. Please spare me, I really like you. Ling Teng begged. At this moment, he was incomparably regretful. He had chased after Mo Shiyao, and Mo Shiyao had such an uncle-in-law. Yet, he had actually gone against the Mo clan for his sealed master. Was he crazy? If he was really together with Mo Shiyao, what accomplishments would he have in the future? Shameless. Qin Wendian casually waved his hand. In an instant, Ling Teng's body vanished from sight. Everyone only saw a beam of light before Ling Teng completely vanished into nothingness. This time around, I initially wanted to pardon all of you and undo the seal. However, all of you are courting death. Qin Wendian coldly spoke. Earlier when he heard the words of these people, he felt a chill in his heart. If he came a little later, there might be some unimaginable consequences. If that was the case, he wouldn't even have the time to feel regret. The expressions of everyone drastically changed, turning as pale as paper. After that, they only saw Qin Wendian lifting his hand as a terrifying palm imprint manifested, slamming down towards them. Inclining their heads and staring at the palm imprint, looks of despair and regret could be seen on everyone's faces. Boom! With a thunderous boom, that area was razed to flat ground. The spatial tunnel closed and everything returned to normal. Qin Wendian was still standing there, but the gazes of those from the Mo clan changed again when they looked at him. Was this what a legend was? A true legend. Back then when these people came to our particle world to wreak havoc, I sealed them and forced them to guide the people of Chu in cultivation. However, I still underestimated the hatred of humans. Seems like I have to give them a good warning. Qin Wendian spoke. A terrifying wave of immortal sense gushed forth, instantly extending beyond Chu, to Grand Xia, and eventually to the entire particle world. This immortal sense wasn't concealed at all, it was like heavenly might. At this moment, countless people felt their hearts trembling as they inclined their heads and stared at the void. After that, they only saw the wind and clouds changing as a supreme figure appeared in the air. In an instant, everyone in the world saw a handsome white-robed figure that resembled a true divinity, standing there in the air. In Grand Xia, countless people inclined their heads and when they saw Qin Wendian, many people called out, "Monarch." In the territory of the royal sacred sect, countless people inclined their heads as their hearts pounded violently. That was none other than Qin Wendian. Many people who had seen Qin Wendian before, as well as some of Qin Wendian's acquaintances, felt intense waves of shock in their hearts when they saw him. He has returned and he was like a heavenly divinity, standing tall in the air, allowing the entire world to see him. I am Qin Wendian. A voice rang out from Qin Wendian's mouth. Back then, immortals from the immortal realms wreaked havoc in our particle world and I sealed them here. Initially, I wanted to undo the seal, but when I returned, I discovered that a bunch of immortals were actually plotting against my family members. Their crimes are unforgivable and I've already killed them all. I've decided that the immortals who were sealed here will continue to stay in our particle world to guide the people of our particle world in cultivation. The next time I return, I will undo the seal. You guys don't have to depend on the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, he has already been killed by me. Other than this, if there's anyone else who dares to cause havoc in our particle world after breaking through to the immortal realm, I will definitely kill them. His voice rumbled through the world, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. There were even some who prostrated themselves on the ground to pay their respects. Was this the legend of this particle world, the number one genius under the heavens, Qin Wentian? He had returned and was even stronger than before. Back then, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor who came to this particle world to recruit a disciple, how imposing was he? His immortal palace descended from the heavens, causing the entire world to prostrate before him. Yet such a character was actually killed by Qin Wentian. In the Qin residence, Qin Yang, who had both his legs broken, initially felt an intense hatred for Qin Wentian. But now when he saw the figure in the air, he was completely dumbfounded. After that, he only felt incomparable shame. This uncle of his, how glorious was he? A single word from him was the law, no one in the world dared to defy him. Yet, he actually did such a disgraceful thing and his uncle still pleaded for him. If he wasn't someone from the Qin clan, given Qin Wentian's status, even 100 deaths wouldn't be enough for him. Qin Yang's parents originally had some thoughts about Qin Wentian. But at this moment, they were speechless in their hearts. Father, mother, will uncle hate me in the future? Will he not bring me along to cultivate? Qin Yang felt incomparable regret. If he followed his uncle in cultivation, what accomplishments would he have in the future? Chapter 1706. After Qin Wentian transmitted his voice, his silhouette vanished from the sky. The people of the Mo residence stared at Qin Wentian as the shock in their hearts grew even more intense. They didn't know how to express this. Their son-in-law, Qin Wentian, was actually a character like a heavenly deity. After that, Qin Wentian directly returned to the Qin residence and brought Qin Chuan and the others over to the Mo residence for a banquet. The two clans naturally had a joyous and harmonious atmosphere. After that, Qin Wentian went out and invited some of his old friends from his particle world over, inviting them to Azure Mystic to attend his wedding. He hoped that on the day of his wedding with Qing Heir, his family and friends would all be present. In the particle world, a group of people headed towards the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. When they arrived at the Imperial Palace of the Heaven Empyrean City, the juniors were all stunned as looks of shock could be seen on their faces. Qin Wentian brought them directly to the Imperial Palace. Qin Chuan asked, Wentian, where is this place? Evergreen Kingdom Palace, Qing Heir's home. Qin Wentian smiled. Sure. Qin Chuan inclined his head and stared at the majestic surroundings. Wentian, father can't give you anything. You have to fight for everything yourself. Father, what nonsense are you talking about? Qin Wentian speechlessly laughed. He knew what Qin Chuan was thinking. Most probably, Qin Wentian thought that it would be awkward for him to be married in Qing Heir's home. Qin Wentian was thinking too much. Brother-in-law, Princess Qing Heir is a princess of the Azure Mystic Immortal Empire. In that case, wouldn't this father-in-law of yours be the younger brother of the emperor? His cultivation base is extremely high, right? Mo Feng asked shyly. Qin Wentian rolled his eyes, yes, yes. At this moment, a figure flashed over, bowing to Qin Wentian, Palace Lord. What's the matter? Qin Wentian glanced at the other party. Someone claims to be a friend of Palace Lord and is here to pay his respects. That person replied. Okay, I'll go take a look. Qin Wentian nodded. Father, I'll arrange for you to rest first. Go ahead. Qin Chuan and the others nodded their heads. Qin Wentian instructed the people from the Lifire Palace. After that, he left by himself. The experts from the Lifire Palace brought Qin Chuan and the others to a palace specially prepared for them. "Senior, can I ask you something?" Mo Feng walked to the side of that expert from the Lifire Palace and secretly asked. "Speak." The expert from the Lifire Palace smiled and nodded. "What is the palace master's level? How powerful is he?" Mo Feng curiously asked. The people in the surroundings rolled their eyes and his father directly berated, "Mo Feng, stop your nonsense." But although this was the case, many people pricked up their ears, wanting to hear what the other party had to say. They were also very curious. Qin Wendian was the #1 expert in this particle world, but they had no idea how he was doing in the immortal realms now. Qin Wendian said that he even killed the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. He should be extremely tyrannical, right? That expert from the Lifire Palace had a face filled with black lines. He speechlessly stared at Mo Feng. "The palace lord didn't tell you?" "No, I'm too embarrassed to ask brother-in-law." Mo Feng scratched his head. "I don't dare to speak nonsense behind the palace lord's back. The wedding will be held 3 days later. At that time, you will naturally know what level the palace lord is at." That expert from the Lifire Palace laughed. Mo Feng felt a little disappointed, but he still nodded his head. "All right then." The him right now was truly curious. "Sis, why don't you tell me?" Mo Feng glanced at Mo Qingcheng, only to see Mo Qingcheng glaring at him. Mo Feng could only smile helplessly. As for Qin Wendian, he came to the reception area of the royal palace. When he saw the two of them, a radiant smile appeared on his face. He walked up and gave that young man a big hug, patting him on the back as he smiled. "Ouyang, long time no see." "Long time no see." Ouyang Guangxing felt a little emotional when he saw Qin Wendian again. He stared at Qin Wendian's transcendent aura as he spoke. "Life is truly mysterious. I, Ouyang Guangxing, have always been conceited, but never in my wildest dreams did I expect that when I meet you again after a few hundred years, you have already become the overlord of the immortal realms. Do you know that on the way here, when I said that I'm the brother of the Heaven Empyrean, the gazes of others when they looked at me were like they were looking at an idiot. In that case, when they see you again on the day of my wedding, they will all become idiots." Qin Wendian laughed. "Ha, that's right. I'm also filled with anticipation to see the expressions of those fellows." Ouyang Guangxing nodded. "My brother has become the Heaven Empyrean, it's all thanks to you." "What are you talking about?" Qin Wendian glared at Ouyang Guangxing. He then turned to Jiang Ting. "Ouyang, after Jiang Ting became an immortal, she grew more and more beautiful. Your luck with women isn't bad." "You fellow, you dare to say that about me?" Ouyang Guangxing pointed at Qin Wendian. "Back then in our particle world, you married Mo Qingcheng. In the lower world, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Mo Qingcheng is the #1 beauty. And now, you even recruited the palace mistress of the Evergreen Kingdom into your harem. How envious. In that case, are you very envious?" Jiang Ting, who was at the side, giggled. "No, how would I dare to? I'll only marry one." Ouyang Guangxing smiled when he saw the look in Jiang Ting's eyes. Seeing that the relationship between the two of them was still so good, Qin Wendian couldn't help but to smile happily. "Let's go, let's chat in the palace. There are still 3 days left and the news of my wedding should be known by everyone in the world. I wonder if those fellows would rush over to attend." Qin Wendian spoke. "If they can make it in time, they will definitely come." Ouyang Guangxing nodded. "Let's hope so." Qin Wendian nodded. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms couldn't be compared to particle worlds. In a particle world, he could sweep out with his immortal sense and swiftly find everyone. But in the immortal realms, it was impossible. They could only depend on themselves. Just like what Ouyang Guangxing said, at this moment, many of his friends were already on their way and some of them had already arrived in Heaven Empyrean City. Naturally, not only them, right now, people from the entire immortal realms were rushing over to Heaven Empyrean City. For a period of time, the city was filled to the brim with people. All the inns were filled to the brim and many people didn't even have a place to stay for the night. But now, Heaven Empyrean City had already become a city that never sleeps. Even at night, there would still be countless people discussing the wedding. The disciples of the various peak powers had long arrived. Even the second-tier powers also arrived. Immortal emperors and immortal kings could be seen everywhere, and immortal foundation experts were even more common. This was truly a scene that attracted the attention of the entire world. There had never been a wedding that could cause such a huge commotion. The Heaven Empyrean wanted to unify the world and marry the evergreen Qing heir. How could this not cause a commotion? The day of the wedding finally arrived. Today, the entire world was in the limelight. The surroundings of the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom were filled with resplendent lights and resplendent colors. A fiery red carpet was laid out from the Evergreen Kingdom's royal palace to a distance of 100 miles. Both sides of the carpet were guarded by experts from the various peak powers. Resplendent light permeated the air, many experts stood on both sides to maintain order, separating the wedding venue from the spectators. Only those from the peak powers and those close to Qin Wentian could enter. The experts in the air were like immortal soldiers and heavenly generals, incomparably imposing. In the outer perimeter, it was unknown how many people were there. It was simply impossible to see the end of the crowd. Many people had fanatical looks on their faces. Today was the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. The Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian, this legend of the immortal realms. Half of the peak powers in the immortal realms hated his talent and came to the Evergreen Kingdom to hunt him down. His soul was almost shattered, but he actually didn't die. After he returned, he reorganized the world in a short period of time, ruling over the myriad devil islands and becoming the myriad devil sovereign. In a single battle, he slew ancient emperors and took revenge on all the peak powers who participated in the siege, causing all of them to become part of the history of the immortal realms. After that, he joined forces with the reincarnation immortal emperor to kill the 4 Empyreans of the immortal Qianbian Gate, as well as the 3 ancient emperors of the Jiang clan and the Empyreans of the Ying clan. This caused the immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan to disintegrate, and from then on, Azure Mystic was unified. The Heaven Empyrean was a true living legend. They were fortunate enough to live in this era and became the witnesses of this legend. In addition, the Heaven Empyrean used the momentum of unifying the immortal realms to marry the woman he loved. Countless years later, this piece of history would only become a glorious legend that was passed down by countless people. As the witnesses, they naturally felt honored. The gazes of the crowd turned towards the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. There was an incomparably majestic ceremonial platform there, and on the stairs, peak stage immortal emperors could be seen standing there. Only characters like the Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the Dark North Immortal Emperor, as well as the relatives and friends of Qin Wentian and Qing'er, had the qualifications to ascend the stage. At this moment, in the seats beside the ceremonial platform, Chongqing the Great and the others all had smiles on their faces, appearing extremely happy. Qin Chuan, who was at the side, wasn't used to such a grand scene. Although he was the master of the Qin residence, he had never experienced such a grand scene before. Beside him, was none other than Qing'er's father, an immortal emperor of an immortal empire. He had once personally witnessed how awe-inspiring the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was. Old Qin. At this moment, a supreme beauty walked over. Qin Chuan inclined his head and stared at her. She had an exquisite and perfect countenance, as well as an incomparably noble aura. Clearly, her status was extraordinary. Old Qin and Chongqing the Great will be seated together later. After the newlyweds arrive, they have to pay their respects to their elders. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch smiled. Right. Qin Chuan nodded. Fairy, are you really someone from the mortal world? Mo Feng, who was at the side, stared dumbfoundedly at the Southern Phoenix Matriarch. Such a transcendent aura and beauty made him feel that this was a little surreal. However, he didn't have any intention to offend her, he was merely sighing in admiration. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch smiled at Mo Feng. What do you think? I feel like I'm dreaming. Mo Feng laughed. This dream has just begun. The Southern Phoenix matriarch laughed. After that, she walked over. Mo giggled as she stared at Mo Feng. Are you not afraid that I will tell sister-in-law about this when we return? Humph. Mo Shuyao, who was at the side, snorted lightly, but she also felt that this was a dream. Mo, what sort of character is brother-in-law exactly? There are so many people who don't belong to the mortal world here to support him. Mo Feng glanced at the surroundings. There were simply too many beauties. The maidens of the Jadestich Immortal Palace were all extremely beautiful. The palace mistress of the Immortal Palace was even more otherworldly. There was also Namhuang Yunshi of the Namhuang clan and the other maidens. All of them were extremely beautiful. These were the maidens, and the auras they exuded were simply unimaginable. Many of them were like true emperors. How would I know? Mou mumbled, feeling curious in her heart. Chapter 1707. The atmosphere here was extremely lively. Not only were Qin Chuan and the others present, Qin Wentian and his foster father Yi Qingyun were also present. Yi Lingshuang was naturally present as well. Other than them, Qing'er's master fairy Qingmei was naturally here as well as Qin Wentian's teacher Mustang. Some of the elders from the Emperor's Star Academy were also here. Qin Wentian's maternal grandfather, Qin Wentian's sexy senior apprentice sister Luo Huan, his good friends Ouyang Guangsheng, Jiang Ting, Fatty Fanlu, Xian Xan, Chu Mang, Bai Lu Yi, and the others were all here. These old friends had never gathered together like this before. The reason why they could do this was because Qin Wentian himself personally descended to the particle world and brought all of them here. At the same time, the commotion in the immortal realms caused by this commotion. Wentian said that later on, all of you have to go up and cheer for him. The Southern Phoenix matriarch smiled as she spoke. From afar, the spectators all sighed in their hearts when they saw this scene. Qin Wentian actually had so many friends and relatives with low cultivation bases. The Southern Phoenix matriarch personally received them. In the entire immortal realms, only Qin Wentian had such a great deal of face. Among these people, there were many who hadn't even reached the Immortal Foundation realm. If they knew the identity of the person receiving them, it was unknown how they would feel. How beautiful, boss is too awesome. Fatty Fan Li's eyes widened as he stared at the Southern Phoenix matriarch and the beauties in the surroundings. There were simply too many beauties, and all of them were outstanding beauties. Behind the Southern Phoenix matriarch, Namhuang Yunshi, Nanfeng Shinga, and Nanfeng Guhong were all extremely beautiful. Ah, I was wrong. Fatty let out a low-sounding scream. Xian Xian placed her hand on his waist, and the strength of her grip almost caused Fatty to cry. Do you still want to look? Xian Xian tilted her head and stared at Fan Lu. Nope, my wife is the most beautiful. Fatty directly admitted defeat. The people around him all laughed. Naturally, Xian Xian was truly very beautiful. If not, Fatty wouldn't have acted so quickly. Fatty, is your senior sister not beautiful? Only to see Luo Huan walking over as she giggled. Fatty glanced at Luo Huan, who was as sexy as ever. Although he had some thoughts in his heart, when he thought of how this demoness treated him in the past, he couldn't help but shiver as he replied, Senior sister is as beautiful as my wife. Yo, Fatty knows how to talk now. Luo Huan giggled. Oh Yang, have you ever thought that there would be a day when the Southern Phoenix matriarch would personally receive us? Fatty mumbled, changing the topic. I don't dare. Ouyang Guangsheng shook his head and smiled. What he said was the truth. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to imagine such a thing. What status did the Southern Phoenix matriarch have? She was a lofty character that was unreachable normally. She was the leader of the Southern Phoenix clan. Let alone receiving them, given their cultivation bases, if it wasn't for today, they wouldn't even be able to see her. In the past, when they went to the Southern Phoenix clan, they couldn't even enter, let alone meet the Southern Phoenix matriarch. This is what it means by the impermanence of the world. On the way here, I made many friends and none of them believed me when I said that Wentian is my boss. Later on, I shall go up the stage and blind their eyes. Fatty Fan Lu shamelessly laughed. Luo Huan giggled, damn Fatty, you intentionally made friends with a bunch of scoundrels on the way here just so you can show off today. Fan Li's smile trembled as he replied, Senior sister is so smart, you've actually guessed it correctly. With just this little bit of scheming? Luo Huan disdainfully spoke. The eyes of those from the Qin clan and Mo clan flashed when they heard Fan Li's words. Mo Feng and Mo Yu involuntarily walked over and asked, Brother, did you say that that woman is the Southern Phoenix matriarch? You didn't know. Fan Lu stared at Mo Feng and smiled. The Southern Phoenix matriarch of the Namhuang clan, a goddess-like character, one of the most dazzling beauties in the immortal realms. Mo Feng was dumbfounded. The people from the Mo clan and Qin clan all came from a particle world and there were many things they didn't know about. They weren't like the people from the immortal realms who had long heard of Qin Wentian's legend. But now that they came here, no one had mentioned it to them before. Hence, Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't brag in front of them. Really? Mo Yu weakly asked. Naturally. Other than the Southern Phoenix matriarch, there are many other supreme characters here as well. Look at those beautiful fairies over there, do you see them? Fan Lu started to show off. I see them. Mo Yu nodded. Those are the fairies from the Jadestige Immortal Palace. The one standing in the middle is the palace mistress of the Jadestige Immortal Palace. You simply don't dare to imagine how beautiful she is beneath that veil. She is the embodiment of perfection and is also an unrivaled character in the immortal realms. Also over there, the princes and palace lords of the Shooting Sun Kingdom have all arrived. Do you see the Dark North Immortal Empire? That imposing middle-aged man is the Dark North Immortal Emperor, the king of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Also, that group of devil cultivators, do you see them? From their auras, the supreme characters of the myriad devil islands are all there. Fan Lu spoke as though he was listing his family treasures. Mo Feng and Mo Yu were long stunned speechless, they couldn't even blink their eyes. Is this real? Are they dreaming? Fan Lu said that these people are all supreme characters at the peak of the immortal realms. All of them are here to attend their brother-in-law's wedding. Why does it sound so surreal? And those people, do you see them? Over there, right, those people outside. Fan Lu pointed to a location in the distance. Mo Feng and Mo Yu turned their gazes in that direction, only to see a few majestic silhouettes exuding an extraordinary aura, as though they were all major characters. However, they couldn't even enter, and could only wait outside. Do you know who they are? Fan Lu started to keep them in suspense, asking even though he already knew the answer. No idea. Mo Feng naturally shook his head. Hehe, let me tell you. These people are all supreme powers at the peak of the immortal realms. The Thunder God Hall, Snowdrift Sacred Cult, Nibble Sky Sacred Cult, etc. Also, the people at the front are none other than their hall lords and sect leaders. They are all powerful existences that can shake the entire immortal realms with just a wave of their hands, able to destroy cities with a wave of their hands, moving mountains and draining seas. They are the hegemons of an entire region, controlling countless territories in the immortal realms. Are they strong? Fan Lu boasted. Naturally, what he said couldn't be considered as boasting. What he said was the truth. Many people at the side who knew about this all laughed, but they didn't disturb him. Even such characters were waiting outside, they didn't even have the qualifications to enter. How glorious was this? How could they not feel a little bit of pride? It was just that they weren't as passionate as Fan Lu. Strong. Mo Feng replied in a dumbfounded manner. Glory? Fan Lu had a shameless smile on his face. So what if they are strong? Aren't they just waiting outside? Look at us. Fan Lu crossed his arms in front of his chest and laughed. Mo Feng and Mo Yu both felt their minds going haywire. The people from the Qin clan and Mo clan were also in a daze. They were all thinking if this fatty was boasting or not. Why did it feel so surreal? If what he said was true, what status did Qin Wentian have to have such a lineup? Could it be that they were giving face to Qing'er's father, Chongqing the Great? Was Chongqing the Great so powerful? They weren't very clear about this, but they felt that there was a possibility. After all, they were all hegemons of the immortal realms. Where's elder sister? Mou asked. She suddenly wanted to ask her elder sister personally. Since brother-in-law brought us here today, he naturally wouldn't simply be here to watch the ceremony. Are you stupid? Mo Feng had a meaningful smile on his face. Mou blinked her beautiful eyes before she smiled as well. She hoped that she would be able to witness the magnificence of her elder sister. Such an occasion was simply too perfect. At the side, Mo Qingqing's master, the medicine sovereign, was also here. When he heard their conversation, a smile appeared on his face. Junior brother Qin is truly an unrivaled character. Lin Shuai sighed in his heart. Right now, who in the world didn't know of Qin Wentian? Pemicham, Yi Lingshuang smiled and nodded. For some reason, she felt a sour sensation in her nose as she felt an urge to cry. The emotions in her heart were indescribable with words. Qin Yao, who was standing behind Qin Chuan, was already crying. She believed in Fan Li's words. Although Fan Li knew how to boast, he wouldn't lie. In addition, everything she saw with her own eyes was so real. Right now, her younger brother who grew up together with her, had already stabilized his position in the immortal realms. Not only that, he stood at such a high position. Everyone in the world came to attend his wedding. Was this really because of Qing'er's father? She didn't believe it. If that was the case, how could they have such a status? A matriarch character personally came to receive them. What sort of treatment was this? If it was because of Qing'er's father, the Southern Phoenix matriarch should also be seated at the top, right? Only to see at this moment, the Southern Phoenix matriarch walked up the platform. She had a smile on her face, exuding magnificence through the generations. Today, as the Southern Phoenix matriarch, she played the role of the master of ceremonies, presiding over the wedding. The Southern Phoenix matriarch is presiding. The crowd and the surroundings all sighed with emotions in their hearts when they saw this scene. This was the wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. The Southern Phoenix matriarch was willing to preside over his wedding. In this world, there wouldn't be a second person who could enjoy such treatment. Play celestial music. The Southern Phoenix matriarch lightly spoke. In an instant, her voice rang out through the heavens and earth. As the sound of her voice faded, an incomparably resonant melody rang out, resounding through the heavens and earth. After that, boundless multicolored light flashed, transforming into the most beautiful colors. Blue wands and phoenixes appeared. Their voices were like the most beautiful music in the world, resounding through the heavens and earth. Harmonious cries of phoenixes. Countless people stared at the multicolored light in the sky, all of them stunned by this scene. What music was more suitable than the harmonious cries of phoenixes and phoenixes for a wedding? At this moment, an even more resplendent multicolored light flashed in the sky, seemingly capable of piercing through the heavens. Within the resplendent multicolored light, a Kirin saint beast could be seen galloping through the air. The wind and clouds changed color, demonic dragons danced, divine turtles appeared, phoenixes bathed in boundless flames. These were all auspicious saint beasts in the world. Their heads were inclined towards the sky as though they were welcoming something. Within the boundless radiance, Qin Wentian slowly appeared on a golden-winged great rock. That great rock was none other than Little Rascal. This scene was so beautiful that even the heavens and earth lost their color. He appeared in the most perfect form, descending upon the Evergreen Kingdom, preparing to marry his wife. He said before that he wanted to give Qing'er a grand wedding. At this instant, it was unknown how many maidens fell in love as they stared at that supreme figure. The Heaven Empyrean, Qin Wentian, was also the groom today. Chapter 1708. The Celestial Emperor's Wedding. The true dragon descended, the Qilin appeared, the divine turtle came, and the Wan and Phoenix cried together. This scene was too dazzling. The various clans of the monster race have arrived to contribute to the wedding of the celestial emperor. Everyone understood in their hearts that these were the demon emperors of the desolate mountains. Even if they weren't willing to submit to anyone and retreated to the desolate mountains, the situation in the immortal realms has already been established. The Heaven Empyrean unified the immortal realms, and on the day of his grand wedding, the demon races had no choice but to come and offer their congratulations. Also, they were willing to do so. The demons of the desolate mountains were also worried that Qin Wentian would point his sword at the desolate mountains. The immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan of the heavenly talisman realm was a lesson to be learned from. If Qin Wentian really sent troops to the desolate mountain range, it would be a calamity for the demons. Today, they came here to express their stance. Even if they didn't say it explicitly, if the Heaven Empyrean really gave the order, they would definitely show up. Right now, the immortal region, the myriad devil islands, and the desolate 10,000 mountain range had officially merged into one, listening to the Heaven Empyrean's orders. Standing on the back of the golden-winged rock, the celestial emperor truly carried the momentum of unifying the world as he married the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom. The southern phoenix matriarch nodded to the many people seated below. After which, everyone walked up the ceremonial stage. Fan Le held his head high as he walked up, exuding an air of arrogance. Ouyang Guangxing drew in a deep breath. He, who wasn't afraid of anything, was actually extremely nervous at this moment. Qin Wentian's appearance was so brilliant that they were all deeply shocked. This was the embodiment of Qin Wentian's status today. Qin Chuan's face was flushed, and his eyes were red. He looked at Qin Wentian, surrounded by holy beasts. His steps were heavy as he walked up the dais. Next to him, Changqing the Great patted him on the shoulder, and then nodded to Qin Chuan with a smile. Qin Chuan smiled back at Changqing the Great, nodded, and continued to walk up the dais. Mustang, Luo Huan, and those from the Emperor's Star Academy all had smiles on their faces. Yi Qingyun, Yi Lingshuang, Lin Shuai, and the others from the Battle Sword sect were all extremely agitated. The Medicine Sovereign, the people of the Mo residence, and the others all felt anticipation in their hearts. They didn't know if Qingqing would appear in this incomparably resplendent scene today. Qin Yao could no longer hold back her tears as they flowed down her cheeks. The instant Qin Wentian appeared, she had already started crying. Tears streamed down her cheeks as they walked up the ceremonial stage, staring in the direction of Qin Wentian. Present. The Southern Phoenix matriarch spoke. At this moment, the experts from the Thunder God Hall, Chaotic Sky Sect, Snowdrift Sage Hall, Nibble Sky Sacred Cult and the other peak powers who submitted to the Jiang clan and the immortal Qianbian Gate all walked out. Every one of them was a hegemon of a region, a sect leader or a hall lord. They held incomparably valuable gift boxes in their hands and carried their treasures as they walked towards the stage. At this moment, their hearts were incomparably heavy, but they had no choice but to do this. What they wanted to present were the ultimate treasures of their sects, the most precious cultivation arts and cultivation arts. These would be the betrothal gifts that Qin Wentian gave to the Evergreen Kingdom. The Heaven Empyrean had ordered them to present these treasures to the Changqing the Great. However, who would dare to say a single word of objection? The victor was king and the loser was vilified. In the battle of the Evergreen Kingdom, the Azure Mystic Immortal Sect, Qin Wentian, the immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan. These three powers represented three different camps. Qin Wentian was victorious and unified the world. Even if Qin Wentian wanted to destroy them, no one would say anything. After all, they chose to stand on the opposing side of Qin Wentian. At the moment when Qin Wentian unified the world, they were all incomparably terrified. After that, the Heaven Empyrean's decree came. Although it was a humiliation, it also meant that they wouldn't be destroyed. Were they happy or worried about this? They didn't know what to say. They walked step by step towards the stairs below the ceremonial platform. A supreme immortal emperor from the Yaotai Immortal Palace presented the treasures to the people around Changqing the Great. Changqing the Great smiled and accepted it. All of this was what he ought to do. Back then when Qin Wentian was weak, he didn't stop Qin Wentian and Qing Heir from being together. The two of them experienced life and death together with many trials and tribulations. Now that Qin Wentian finally unified the world and married Qing Heir, he naturally would accept a mere betrothal gift. Everyone only had envy and blessings. They understood that what Chongqing the Great and the Evergreen Kingdom would obtain wasn't just this. Qin Wentian could give them even more. Many people from the other peak powers only hated the fact that there weren't any women in their peak powers that could capture Qin Wentian's heart. Among the crowd from the Snowdrift Sage Hall, Chu Qingyi stood among them. Her heart was filled with melancholy as tears flowed down her face. The people beside her stared at Chu Qingyi as they sighed in their hearts. Back then, they hated themselves for not listening to her words and befriending Qin Wentian. Su Qingyao was also among the crowd. Her parents smiled at her. Back then, why didn't you make the Heaven Empyrean fall in love with you? Su Qingyao rolled her eyes and glared at her parents. However, she felt a sense of disappointment in her heart. After her experiences in the city of ancient emperors, she already had a favorable impression of the saber-sword immortal king. He was simply too outstanding, there was no one more dazzling than him. However, the him today was even more dazzling compared to the him in the city of ancient emperors. He ascended to the peak and was about to marry the woman he loved. Lin Xian'er squeezed to the front of the crowd. She had arrived very early, and when she stared at the figure in the air, her tears flowed unceasingly. She thought back to the past. In the particle world, the saber-sword immortal king protected her. At that time, she once thought that from now on, she would never have feelings for any other man. Xian'er. The handsome young man who came together with her called out. He felt some heartache in his heart as he spoke. I'm sorry, I can't give you such a wedding. He thought that Lin Xian'er was reminiscing about the past and was envious of Evergreen Qing-er. Such a scene would surely cause any woman's heart to be moved. However, he couldn't help but to admit that he couldn't give her such a wedding. In this world, other than Qin Wentian, who else could do so? I'm sorry, I can't agree to be together with you. Lin Xian'er suddenly spoke, her words causing the young man's heart to tremble. He stared fixedly at Lin Xian'er. Why? Because, I have no way to lie to my heart. Lin Xian'er was still staring at the white-robed figure in the air. How good would it be if she hadn't met him in the past? If that was the case, she wouldn't be unable to accommodate anyone else. Just because you saw the magnificent scene today. The young man felt an incomparable sense of disappointment in his heart. So it turned out that she also loved vanity. He naturally understood that given Lin Xian'er's beauty, if she truly desired vanity, she would definitely have a chance to marry an extraordinary character. We've known each other for so long. Why do you think I'm such a person? Lin Xian'er shook her head, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Then why? The young man asked again. Lin Xian'er turned her gaze over, staring at the young man. She suddenly smiled, a smile so beautiful. She pointed to Qin Wentian in the air. If I told you that I was acquainted with him when he was still in the particle world, would you believe me? If I told you that I was once captured by someone and he stood in front of me, willing to use his life to exchange for mine, would you believe me? Ask me why, because after I fell in love with him, my heart could no longer contain anyone else. The young man stared at the smile on Lin Xian'er's face. He stood there in a daze, feeling an intense pain in his heart. Was such a reason enough? Of course it was. Could it be that he felt that he was more outstanding than the Heaven Empyrean? He finally understood why Lin Xian'er wanted to come. Because, the person she deeply loved in her heart was the Heaven Empyrean. How could she contain anyone else? Naturally, this included him. Turning around, he walked towards the crowd. His back view was incomparably lonely. As for Lin Xian'er, her tears grew even more sorrowful, causing the hearts of the people in the surroundings to shatter. Such a beauty, crying so much. Who could she fall in love with? Who wouldn't be moved? However, the person she fell in love with was the Heaven Empyrean. In this world, there was only a single Heaven Empyrean. At this moment, 7-colored auspicious clouds appeared above the ceremonial stage as the cry of a phoenix drifted over. In the air, a flawlessly beautiful phoenix appeared. This was a true phoenix, surrounded by many other birds. On the back of the phoenix, Ching'e was clad in an incomparably resplendent robe, resembling the most beautiful wedding dress in the world. She had a phoenix crown on her head, resembling a goddess. Bathed in 7-colored light, she descended from the air and slowly landed on the stage. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a smile, like the happiest smile in the world. Today, there were too many supreme beauties here, but not a single one was able to steal away her radiance. She was the female lead today. She was holy and beautiful, akin to a flawless goddess. Below, Changqing the Great, Fairy Qingmei and the others stared at Qing'er. The eyes of the evergreen emperor were red, while Fairy Qingmei was tearing up. Mo Qingqing stood behind her, helping her with the wedding dress. Qing'er smiled at Qin Wentian. At this moment, she slowly turned and walked to Mo Qingqing's side, holding her hand. Elder sister Qing'er. Mo Qingqing started. Today was her elder sister Qing'er's wedding. Didn't they say that she was only here to help? Qingqing. Qing'er gently smiled. She pulled Mo Qingqing along as the two of them stood on the back of the phoenix. Although today was the day of her wedding, how could she enjoy such a scene alone? This should belong to them together. Right now, the two of them were like sisters, even closer than sisters. Tears flowed from the corners of Mo Qingqing's eyes. She glared in the direction of Qin Wentian. Her beauty was so breathtaking that it was suffocating. Upon seeing these two supreme beauties, the people of the immortal realms couldn't help but sigh. Only the Heaven Empyrean was worthy of these two beauties. How could Qin Wentian not feel boundless gentleness in his heart? The golden-winged great rock let out a long cry as it flew forward. The dragon and phoenix protected him while the Kirin opened the path. Qin Wentian stood on auspicious clouds, walking towards the side of Qing'er and Qingqing. After that, he stood in the middle of the two of them as he smiled warmly at them. At this moment, in this scene, there was no need to say anything. Qin Wentian held their hands and faced the world. He swore in his heart that in this lifetime, he would definitely protect the women he loved the most. At this instant, the gazes of countless people landed on the three of them. The Heaven Empyrean was announcing his love to the world. The people of the Lifefire Palace involuntarily thought back to the scene when Qin Wentian ascended to the position of chairman. However, what he could give to Yi Qianyu clearly couldn't be compared to these two beauties. After all, this was the main wife. Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean. At this moment, the experts of the Lifefire Palace who were guarding the two sides all brandished their divine weapons and pointed them at the sky. Beams of light shot up into the clouds, wanting to pierce through the sky. Congratulations to the Devil Sovereign. In the direction of the myriad Devil Islands, countless experts bowed. In fact, there were even many devil cultivators who knelt on one knee to show their respect. This was supreme respect. Right now, the Devil Sovereign wasn't merely the myriad Devil Sovereign, he was also the ruler of the world. Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean. In the surroundings, the experts from the various peak powers all bowed as well. At this moment, no matter what thoughts they had towards Qin Wentian in the past, there was only respect for him now. He unified the world, killed Empyreans, killed ancient emperors, and was unrivaled under the heavens. Qin Wentian's accomplishments caused the entire world to sigh in admiration. Regardless of friend or foe, they all had to show respect to him. At this instant, those experts who came here to watch the ceremony were also affected by the intense emotions. All of them bowed and shouted, "Congratulations to the world! Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean! Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean! Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean!" Their voices continued to radiate out into the distance, spreading throughout the entire Heaven Empyrean city. With a glance, the countless people in Heaven Empyrean city all bowed and paid their respects. Chapter 1709. The echoes lingered in the sky, and the sound of shock lingered for a long time. This scene made everyone's blood boil. Everyone involuntarily fell into this atmosphere. At this moment, there was only supreme reverence and blessings in their hearts. There were no other distracting thoughts. In this world, there were only 3 beautiful silhouettes left. The Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian, Evergreen Qing, and Mo Qingcheng. The people from the Qin clan and Mo clan felt great waves of shock in their hearts. They only felt their blood boiling as the blood in their bodies churned unceasingly. Everyone in the world was paying their respects to the Heaven Empyrean. How could they not feel their souls trembling? They knew that they would never be able to forget this scene for the rest of their lives. Staring at the white-robed figure in the air, tears flowed down Qin Chuan's old face. He who had experienced the vicissitudes of life couldn't control his tears at all. The child he brought up wasn't merely a hegemon in this particle world. At this moment, how could he not understand that even in this immortal realms, Qin Wentian was also an unrivaled character? No matter if they were immortals, kings, emperors, they all had to bow to him. At this moment, who couldn't tell that Qin Wentian's current status wasn't because of his identity as a princess of the Evergreen Kingdom? Everything was because of Qin Wentian, the Heaven Empyrean, Qin Wentian. Qin Yao sobbed loudly, tears flowed down her face. In this situation, other than tears, there was nothing else. Luo Huan, Yiling Shuang, and the others all cried. Even Yi Qingyun couldn't help but cry. Fairy Qing Mei and the others, as well as those from the Mo clan, there were simply too many people who were crying. These were tears of excitement, tears of joy. Let alone them, even Fan Lu and the others who already knew of Qin Wentian's identity couldn't help but feel their eyes turning red when they felt the atmosphere. Fan Lu rubbed his eyes and mumbled, "This is such a joyous occasion, is there a need to lie to my emotions? But I clearly didn't see any touching scenes, why do I, fatty, feel like crying? Xian Xian, what do you think is happening?" "How would I know?" Xian Xian sobbed. When Fan Lu glanced at Xian Xian beside him, he only saw tears flowing down her cheeks unceasingly. She once heard that Qin Wentian was once hunted by the immortal realms. Half of the peak powers in the immortal realm surrounded the Evergreen Kingdom, wanting to take his life. Qing Er's hair turned white overnight, and Mo Qingqing's heart was like dead ashes. Now, did they finally succeed? Even after countless years, this legend would probably still be passed down. No one would be willing to forget this romantic and heaven-defying legendary history. "Mou, why are you crying? Brother-in-law is so powerful, shouldn't you be happy?" At this moment, Mo Feng finally understood what sort of status Qin Wentian had in the immortal realms. The Heaven Empyrean of the immortal realms, an unrivaled status. "Don't talk about me, aren't you the same?" Mou glared at Mo Feng. "Am I? I'm clearly smiling, okay." Mo Feng laughed, wiping away the hot tears on his face. He was so happy that he was crying. No one would have thought that this scene would have such a powerful tear-jerking effect. Qin Wentian, Qing and Mo Qingqing's friends and relatives had no way to control the emotions in their hearts. In the myriad Devil Islands camp, the veil of the incomparably esteemed priestess was wet. She inclined her head and stared at the white-robed figure as her heartbreaking voice rang out, "Wentian Gij." After calling out, she actually knelt on the ground and started crying. The people in the surroundings were all incomparably shocked. The Blood Priest, the Blood Empress, was actually crying like a little girl. If this was in normal times, it would simply be unimaginable. No one could understand the emotions in Bai Qing's heart. Although right now Qin Wentian was the focus of attention in the world, other than the people of the Qin clan, who else knew Wentian Gij earlier than her? They were childhood sweethearts and played together. Wentian Gij even guided her in cultivation until one day, everything changed. Their lives had a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling change. Right now, when she saw her Wentian Gij holding the hands of Qing and Qingcheng, the people of the immortal realms came to congratulate him. Most probably no one would be more moved than her. She knew that she shouldn't cry on a joyous occasion, but at this moment, she only wanted to cry her heart out. She didn't want to think too much about anything else. Bai Wuya, Jun Mengchen, and the others all stared unblinkingly at this scene. Bai Wuya felt pride in his heart. Jun Mengchen clenched his fists tightly, feeling incomparably glorious. He mumbled in a low voice, "Senior brother." After a very, very long time, the thunderous voices finally calmed down. In this boundlessly vast heaven empyrean city, it was so quiet that not a single sound could be heard. This was simply a miracle. Everyone in the city quietened down. Although there were many people who couldn't see the scene here and couldn't see from such a far distance, they all heard the congratulatory voices earlier. They were all affected and started to congratulate Qin Wentian. When the voices stopped, everyone fell silent. They were only staring in the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Qin Wentian held the hands of Qing and Qingcheng. He stared at the crowd and spoke, "Today is the day of my grand wedding. In Heaven Empyrean City, all the inns will be filled with good wine and delicacies. Everything will be borne by me. Today, I will place 100 high-grade emperor-ranked weapons in interspatial rings. They will belong to whoever gets their hands on them. No one is allowed to snatch them away. Today, I will scatter emperor-ranked stones everywhere in Heaven Empyrean City. Everyone in the city can use them to comprehend their insights, but no one is allowed to keep them for themselves. They will be shared with everyone in Heaven Empyrean City." Qin Wentian's voice directly rang through the entire Heaven Empyrean City, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. This was the generosity of the Heaven Empyrean. 100 high-grade emperor-ranked weapons, this was simply unimaginable. The Heaven Empyrean would even scatter emperor-ranked stones everywhere in Heaven Empyrean City, allowing everyone to comprehend their insights and cultivate. When the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, boundless light suddenly radiated from him. Resplendent beams of spatial light shot towards all directions in Heaven Empyrean City, bringing with them interspatial rings and emperor stones. At this moment, everyone in Heaven Empyrean City only saw countless beams of spatial light descending from the sky, directly landing on the ground. Many people frenziedly tried to snatch the interspatial rings. Those who obtained them all had expressions of wild joy on their faces, but no one dared to snatch them. Everyone could sense the Heaven Empyrean's immortal sense enveloping the entire city. Who would dare to disobey the Heaven Empyrean's orders? All of a sudden, countless beams of light shot out from Heaven Empyrean City. The Emperor's stones of various attributes radiated resplendent light. In the air, astral light cascaded downwards, landing on the Emperor's stones. Hence, the entire Heaven Empyrean City seemed to have transformed into a city of starry space, bathing in boundless astral light. Before Qin Wentian, the experts from the various peak powers were still there. They didn't try to snatch the interspatial rings. Those subordinates of Qin Wentian weren't in a hurry at all. Since the Heaven Empyrean could bestow rewards to the world, how could they be left out? As for those who didn't belong to Qin Wentian, they only felt boundless regret in their hearts. A single wrong choice would cause them to lose everything. The atmosphere of the entire Heaven Empyrean City grew lively. Qin Wentian smiled as he watched everything. He held on to the hands of Qing and Mo Qingcheng as he turned and walked towards Changqing the Great and Qin Chuan. When he arrived before them, the three of them all bowed. He didn't bow to the heavens or the earth, he only bowed to his parents and elders. Changqing the Great, Qin Chuan and the others hurriedly stood up, supporting the bodies of Qin Wentian and the two others. Although they were relatives, what status did Qin Wentian have now? He was someone everyone in the world worshipped and had the title of Heaven Empyrean. How heavy was the weight of his bow? However, Qin Wentian didn't bother about him and continued to bow. This was something he ought to do. "Wentian, from now onwards, my daughter will be completely handed over to you. Take good care of Qing." Changqing the Great patted Qin Wentian's shoulder as he spoke. Right now, Qin Wentian had already surpassed him by too much and was more suitable to protect Qing, compared to him. Today, they were officially married. From now onwards, wherever Qin Wentian went, Qing would follow. He wouldn't say anything more. They would live and die together. "Father." Qin Wentian called out, no longer referring to his father as Heaven Empyrean. Changqing the Great started. After that, he started laughing uproariously. His eyes turned red as he nodded. Good, good. Qin Wentian stared at the familiar figures before him. These were all his close friends and family. Right now, they were all gathered here to attend his wedding. He was truly very happy. Wentian, congratulations. The Southern Phoenix matriarch walked over and congratulated him. Yaoyue, thank you for preparing everything. Qin Wentian smiled. Everything about the wedding was personally arranged by the Southern Phoenix matriarch. Even the demons who came to help were also arranged by her. Are you being polite with me? Nanfeng Yaoyue smiled charmingly. Right now, she no longer treated herself as an elder and was much more natural in front of Qin Wentian. Let's use today to settle the situation in the immortal realms. Qin Wentian smiled. He turned and stared at the people of the immortal realms. A moment later, the gazes of countless people landed on him. Each and every action of Qin Wentian was being watched by countless people. There's one more thing I want to announce to the world today. Now that Azure Mystic has been unified, there are many guests from the outside world. I know that some of them have arrived today, but I hope that the guests from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms would mind their own business and not cause trouble in Azure Mystic. If not, they would be my enemies. Since I'm the overlord of Azure Mystic, I naturally have to protect it. Qin Wentian said, and everyone listened quietly. In addition, now that the situation in the immortal realms has stabilized, Heaven Empyrean City will become the capital of Azure Mystic. The myriad Devil Islands will be the same as before, governed by the Devil Mountain. As for the desolate 10,000 mountain range, I won't interfere. The demonic races can enter the immortal realms, but they have to abide by the rules and not wreak havoc or their entire race will be annihilated. As for the immortal realms, the eastern region will be governed by the Evergreen Kingdom, the southern region will be governed by GD and her sect, the western region will be governed by the Namhuang clan, the northern region will be governed by the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Jadestige Immortal Palace and 100 Refinements sect, the central region will be governed by the Shooting Sun Kingdom and Winshin Temple. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, countless people were stunned. They all understood that Qin Wentian's words would determine the future situation of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. These powers were designated as the legitimate hegemonic powers, helping the Heaven Empyrean to govern the world. One could very well imagine that these powers would soon welcome a glorious page in their history. Chapter 1710. The grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean was a matter that attracted the attention of the entire world. Today, the entire world celebrated. The atmosphere in Heaven Empyrean City was incomparably frenzied. There were 100 people who obtained peak-stage Emperor-ranked weapons and were incomparably excited. For those who didn't obtain any weapons, they were all comprehending the astral light in Heaven Empyrean City. That was the radiance of the Emperor-ranked stones, it could allow them to comprehend and cultivate. Similarly, on this day, the structure of Azure Mystic was set. The orthodox powers were divided and these major powers were all located in Heaven Empyrean City. Hence, Heaven Empyrean City would become the center of Azure Mystic. The news of this soon circulated out to all corners of the immortal realms. Even after countless years, the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean was still discussed enthusiastically by everyone. And for those who had personally witnessed this legendary event, they would always be incomparably excited every time they mentioned it. Their eyes were filled with the flames of passion. Today, Qin Wentian welcomed the most perfect day of his life. Many friends and family gathered around him. Under the night sky, he shared a pillow with his 2 wives, but he didn't have any distracting thoughts. He only hugged Qing and Qingcheng, enjoying this rare moment. He discovered that after Qing and Qingcheng fell asleep, there were traces of tears at the corners of their eyes. As for the Qin residents, Mo residents and the other close friends of Qin Wentian, they couldn't sleep today. This grand wedding couldn't be erased from their minds. Scenes of the people of the world bowing and congratulating Qin Wentian would appear in their minds. That scene was deeply imprinted in the depths of their souls. Only after several days did the commotion gradually die down. However, Heaven Empyrean City was still incomparably lively and bustling. Not only did the number of people not decrease, it actually increased instead. Because, many experts who didn't make it in time had all arrived, and there were also those who heard that there were emperor-ranked stones in Heaven Empyrean City. This caused Qin Wentian's subordinates to have no choice but to give the order to control the flow of people entering Heaven Empyrean City. If this continued, the countless wide streets in Heaven Empyrean City would become unusable. During these few days, Qin Wentian didn't do anything. He didn't cultivate and only accompanied his family and friends, chatting with them. His elder sister Qin Yao and Yiling Shuang were always by his side, while his senior sister Luo Huan would tease him from time to time. This caused Qin Wentian to feel a rare sense of joy, as though he had returned to the past. Fatty Fan Lo was as shameless as ever, looking for beauties everywhere he went. Every time he was caught by Xian Xian, he would beg for mercy and Xian Xian would forgive him. Mo Feng and Mo Yu, the two little fellows, kept pestering Qin Wentian, asking Qin Wentian to guide them in their cultivation. However, given their current cultivation bases, why would they need Qin Wentian to personally guide them? Lin Xian'er was also invited into the Heaven Empyrean Palace specially constructed for Qin Wentian. However, she only spoke a few words with Qin Wentian before she left. She didn't cry, she only had a smile on her face that was filled with blessings. Qin Chuan, Mo Qingqing's father and the other elders naturally had smiles on their faces, they were so happy that they couldn't conceal their grins. However, Qin Wentian also encountered a troublesome matter. Qin Chuan and the other elders actually wanted to hug their grandchildren. Qin Wentian felt his head swelling. The path of cultivation was extremely long and the path of cultivation was extremely difficult. How would he dare to give birth so easily? He had always been using some underhanded methods, not letting others know about it. This caused his senior apprentice sister Luo Huan to tease him about this matter, causing Qin Wentian to feel his head swelling. Everything was so beautiful. Sometimes, Qin Wentian even thought that if he could continue living his life like this, with his family by his side and beauties by his side, wouldn't that be a kind of perfection? However, the path of cultivation was extremely long. If one didn't step into the peak of the martial path, it would be hard for one to achieve true perfection. In the world of cultivation, one's life was already out of one's control. If it wasn't for the fact that he had the strength he had today and was able to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, would there be such a happy reunion today? Back then, he had already died once. He naturally understood this logic. If he didn't continue forward, there would be danger waiting for him ahead. In addition, there was still one thing he had yet to accomplish. This was something he had always hidden in the depths of his heart. He still had to bear the burden of a blood feud. Today, in the Heaven Empyrean Palace, Qin Wentian gathered the Changqing the Great, GD, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch, the Dark North Immortal Emperor and the others. These people controlled the entire Immortal Realms, they were the true masters of the Immortal Realms. For the next period of time, all of you can choose the core members of your respective clans or sects to come to the Heaven Empyrean Palace. My current cultivation base is slightly higher than all of you and I can give you some guidance. Also, in addition to the treasures I have on me, I can help all of you in your cultivation. Naturally, the people I choose must be absolutely trustworthy. For Azure Mystic to have its current situation, all of you have contributed to it. I don't hope that in the future, your descendants would want to overthrow the current peaceful situation. Qin Wentian spoke. Everyone present nodded. Some of them had some grudges in their hearts when they submitted to Qin Wentian back then. After all, the name wasn't good. They were originally hegemons of a region yet they had to listen to the orders of others. But now, they discovered that there was nothing wrong with that. Their authority was much greater than before, they had become the true hegemon of the Immortal Realms. Now that Azure Mystic was unified, Qin Wentian wouldn't ask them to do anything. Even when they dealt with the Immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan, Qin Wentian acted alone. They didn't even have to do anything and could be said to be enjoying the fruits of Qin Wentian's labor. Right now, Qin Wendian wanted to help them in their cultivation. The Shooting Sun Kingdom, Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and the other peak powers were all silently sighing at the choice they made back then. There's one more thing. Right now, more and more experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms are coming to Azure Mystic. I'm a little worried. After this matter is concluded, I will leave Azure Mystic. At that time, the Immortal Realms will have to depend on everyone. Naturally, if there's anyone who is willing to roam the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, you can come with me. This is up to you all to make your own decision. Qin Wendian continued. He treated everyone like this, he wouldn't make a choice for them. Everything would be up to them to choose the path they want to walk. Naturally, this matter isn't urgent. Everyone can think about it carefully. If anyone wishes to leave, you have to make sure to make the necessary arrangements before you leave. Qin Wendian spoke. Many people here felt their hearts stirring. They have already reached the end of their cultivation here and they have witnessed extraordinary strength. Could it be that they didn't feel envy and yearn for it? Qin Wendian returned from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and became so powerful. Could it be that they didn't have any thoughts about it? The powerful Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was the highest realm among the 33 immortal realms. Experts were as common as clouds and immortal emperors could be found everywhere. Ancient emperors might only appear once every 10,000 years, but there were countless of them in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Just in Azure Mystic alone, many of them have died recently. Everyone, is there anything else? Qin Wendian asked. Benefactor Qin, this poor monk wishes to speak with Benefactor alone. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple spoke. Qin Wendian was somewhat taken aback. Sure, I will listen to Reverend's guidance. The others stood up and bade farewell, leaving behind only Qin Wendian and the Reverend from Wenxin Temple, as well as Changqing the Great. Changqing, do you want to speak or should I? The Reverend from Wenxin Temple asked. This matter isn't very glorious, let me speak instead. Changqing the Great smiled. Qin Wendian, there's no need for me to speak too much about the great Nirvana immortal art, right? Qin Wendian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. He stared in bewilderment at Changqing the Great and the Reverend from Wenxin Temple. He didn't expect that the Reverend from Wenxin Temple would actually stay behind for this matter. This great Nirvana immortal art originated from Wenxin Temple. However, the method I obtained wasn't very glorious. Luckily, Reverend didn't pursue the matter. Changqing the Great spoke. The great Nirvana immortal art actually originated from Wenxin Temple? Qin Wendian felt shock in his heart. Great Nirvana, Nirvanic rebirth, creating an avatar. The Evergreen Kingdom truly didn't have such a technique. In truth, my Wenxin Temple also has an extremely ancient inheritance. According to the records in our temple, we are a Buddhist sect that originated from the ancient Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. This great Nirvana immortal art can be traced back to ancient Azure Mystic. When cultivators of the Buddhist sect comprehend the Tao, their avatars would allow them to experience the different sceneries of the world. If not, if they really went into closed-door seclusion, it would be hard for them to achieve enlightenment. I'm ashamed to say this. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple pressed his palms together as he spoke. Qin Wendian pondered for a moment before he understood the meaning of the Reverend's words. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple mostly cultivated in asceticism and didn't enter the secular world to cultivate. However, they had avatars that allowed them to experience everything in the world, love and hate, even giving birth to children. Most probably, there were many things that went against the principles of the Buddhist sect. This was the reason why the Reverend from Wenxin Temple said that he was ashamed. Qin Wendian stared at the Reverend in front of him. Seems like the Reverend had avatars. This was truly interesting. Naturally, the scripture vault of Wenxin Temple is a place where cultivation arts are not divulged to outsiders. The great Nirvana immortal art is also not widely known by many. In Wenxin Temple, there are only a few who have the qualifications to cultivate it. However, there are also scum in the temple. There was once a disciple of my senior brother who had extremely high talent in the Buddhist path, but his character wasn't good. We persuaded him to leave the temple, but he actually snuck into the scripture vault to steal the cultivation art. Also, he originated from a major power and caused quite a commotion back then. Many people were killed in the commotion, and after Changqing received the news, he actually interfered and participated in the theft of the treasures. In the end, he was discovered by our temple. The reverend from Wenxin Temple slowly spoke. Changqing the Great had a bitter smile on his face. For this matter, he wasn't kind at all. In that case, why did the great Nirvana immortal art end up in my hands? Qin Wentian asked. That wasn't the original copy. As for why it ended up in your hands. The reverend from Wenxin Temple smiled and said, remember what I said last time. Benefactor Qin and our temple are fated. This fate was forged many years ago. Reverend, what do you mean by that? Qin Wentian was even more confused as he opened his mouth to ask. This was the treasure of the temple, and it was impossible for it to be divulged to outsiders. Wenxin Temple wouldn't even allow Changqing the Great to cultivate it. How did it end up in his hands? Benefactor Yuanfeng, you and our temple are fated. You and Benefactor Yuanfeng are very similar. The reverend stood up and clasped his hands together. He bowed to Qin Wentian and then turned to leave. Qin Wentian was shocked. Looking at the departing silhouette of the reverend from Wenxin Temple, he asked, Reverend, can you stay for a moment? If Benefactor Qin is free, you can come to Wenxin Temple for a visit. There are some records of the secrets of Qing Xian in the ancient books of Wenxin Temple. I won't talk about it in detail here. Farewell. The reverend from Wenxin Temple said and left immediately. Qin Wentian didn't expect there to be such a story behind it. Chapter 1711. After the reverend from Wenxin Temple left, Qin Wentian had no way to calm his heart. Who was Reverend Yuanfeng? Clearly, he was none other than Qin Yuanfeng. The reverend from Wenxin Temple said that his father, Qin Yuanfeng, had a connection with Wenxin Temple. In that case, there was no doubt that his father had once appeared in Azure Mystic before. Also, Wenxin Temple was willing to give up on the matter of the Evergreen Kingdom stealing the great Nirvana immortal art and allowed Changqing the Great to deliver it to him. The reason for all of this was actually because of his father. In the past, although Qin Wentian did suspect that the great Nirvana immortal art was extraordinary, he didn't connect it with his father. Wenxin Temple had a legacy that originated from ancient Azure Mystic. They should know the secrets of ancient Azure Mystic. Seems like if there was a chance, he would have to make a trip there. Qin Wentian turned his gaze to Changqing the Great as a puzzled expression appeared on his face. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's gaze, Changqing the Great smiled. Qin Yuanfeng appeared in the immortal realms before, but his appearance was very brief, like a blooming cactus. However, his brilliance was still as dazzling as ever, but he was soon forgotten. I didn't expect him to have such a good relationship with Wenxin Temple. He should be your father, right? So father has long guessed it. Qin Wentian nodded. He didn't hide this from Changqing the Great. Changqing the Great's words didn't cause him to feel surprised. Qin Yuanfeng came here to hide from the world. He chose Azure Mystic because this place wouldn't attract the attention of the people from the supreme ancient immortal realms. But even so, his father wouldn't create too much of a commotion in the immortal realms. After all, although the supreme ancient immortal realms couldn't enter Azure Mystic, they still had spies there. Changqing the Great didn't say anything. He wasn't that familiar with Qin Yuanfeng and wasn't clear about the details of this matter. The true mastermind behind all of this was the White Emperor. Back then, the person who came into contact with Wenxin Temple was also the White Emperor. He was always right, he had never been wrong. Just like how he predicted that Qin Wentian would change the fate of the Evergreen Kingdom, ever since Qin Wentian appeared, the Evergreen Kingdom had been in turmoil. Palace Lord, this subordinate has something to report. Outside the Heaven Empyrean Palace, someone spoke. He didn't dare to use his immortal sense to probe inside. No one would dare to do so. However, as long as he spoke, Qin Wentian would naturally be able to hear it. Come in. Qin Wentian spoke. Suli walked in with a jade slip in his hand. Palace Lord, someone said that he wants to pass this to you. Qin Wendian waved his hand as the jade slip flew into it. His immortal sense entered it as sharpness gleamed in his eyes. He then turned his gaze towards a certain direction. His gaze was extremely cold. What happened? Changqing the Great asked. Father, this is news from Hua Taishu. He wants to leave Azure Mystic and told me to seal the city of ancient emperors. Qin Wendian spoke. Seal the city of ancient emperors? Changqing the Great's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The city of ancient emperors had always been a place where ancient emperors were born. Many experts would head there to temper themselves. After Qin Wendian returned, the immortal realms were continuously shaken and many geniuses from the city of ancient emperors came out. But even now, there were still many people cultivating in the city of ancient emperors. Also, this would continue to be the case in the future. Father, do you remember that there are Tao elements in the city of ancient emperors? However, the inheritors of the Tao elements have to fight against each other until the strongest expert emerges. Hua Taishu told me that the city of ancient emperors is a supreme treasure that connects the supreme ancient immortal realms to Azure Mystic. Even if the city of ancient emperors is sealed, some of the Tao elements would still be able to use the city of ancient emperors to spread their wills. This is extremely dangerous. Qin Wendian spoke. He understood that Hua Taishu's words were right. The city of ancient emperors had to be sealed or there would be future troubles. Qin had also received the inheritance of the Tao elements. Qin Wendian guessed that those powers from the upper world that had Tao elements might even be stronger than the lifelong realm. Since you already have a plan in your heart, just do it. Changqing the Great naturally believed in Qin Wendian. Since he said that he wanted to seal the city of ancient emperors, in that case, from now onwards, this city of ancient emperors which had always had an extremely important position in the immortal realms would most probably cease to exist. For the next period of time, I will guide the experts from the various powers in their cultivation, imparting some of my experiences. After that, I will make a trip to Wenxin Temple. Qin Wendian spoke. Changqing the Great nodded lightly. On the second day, the various powers brought their people over. The majority of them were immortal emperors, and there were also transcendent-level immortal kings. Also, all of them were core characters of their respective powers. Qin Wendian started to preach about the Tao, imparting his cultivation experiences and bringing them to other places. He took out the treasured gems and allowed them to sense the energy within, helping them to gain insights. As the saying goes, it's hard to pass down the Tao, everything depended on one's own comprehension. However, there was still some use to it as long as the person imparting the Tao was strong enough. Back then, when he preached about the Tao in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, many people were able to gain insights and undergo a transformation. At the same time when Qin Wendian was preaching about the Tao in Heaven Empyrean City, Di Tian arrived at the chaotic surroundings of the city of ancient emperors. Back then, he had to rely on the Black Dragon to enter the city of ancient emperors. But now, he had already surpassed the immortal emperor realm and was much stronger. He directly flew forward, sending his immortal sense into the surroundings. Within the boundless tempest, there seemed to be another world. In that world, a supreme treasure could be seen, radiating a resplendent light. This was an illusory world, a universe within a palm. Sir, who might you be? A rumbling sound rang out as a terrifying black dragon appeared before Di Tian. This was none other than the black dragon that guarded the city of ancient emperors. The Heaven Empyrean has given the order to seal the city of ancient emperors. Di Tian spoke. The black dragon roared, causing the entire sea region to tremble violently. Impudent! Does he know what the city of ancient emperors is? A treasure from the upper world? Right now, the Heaven Empyrean is in control of Azure Mystic. He doesn't allow the city of ancient emperors to exist. Di Tian's voice was cold. The black dragon's expression was extremely ugly to behold. Lightning crackled around him as the entire sea region went berserk. Lightning from the 9 heavens descended from the heavens, blasting towards Di Tian. You aren't a corporeal body, You are just a manifestation of your spirit body. Di Tian calmly spoke. Boundless sealing power descended from the sky, gushing towards the black dragon. At the same time, a sealing light screen appeared, blocking the 9 heavens from the 9 heavens. Lock. Di Tian waved his hands as countless sealing chains directly wrapped around the black dragon, locking him within. The black dragon roared in rage, "Do you know what you are doing? Shut up." A chain directly slammed into the black dragon's face, causing a bloody scar to appear. This humiliation caused the black dragon to go crazy. This ant from Azure Mystic actually dared to offend him like this? Swishing sounds rang out unceasingly as the chains slammed into the black dragon's body. This caused the black dragon to roar in rage, "You will regret this. The Heaven Empyrean wants me to tell you this. You are very fortunate that you didn't have the foresight back then and didn't allow him to control the inheritance of the city of ancient emperors, allowing him to have today. In order to repay you, you shall be sealed here together with the city of ancient emperors." Di Tian continued speaking. The terrifying chains pierced through the black dragon's body, directly destroying him. This black dragon wasn't his true body should still be in the city of ancient emperors. Stepping out, Qin Wentian continued deeper into the tempest, breaking through the layers of obstructions and arriving outside the city. He then spoke, "People in the city of ancient emperors, listen up. Everyone, immediately retreat from the city of ancient emperors. The Heaven Empyrean has given the order to seal the city of ancient emperors. If you still don't retreat after a day, you shall be sealed together with the city of ancient emperors." At this instant, the hearts of the experts in the city of ancient emperors pounded violently. They naturally weren't unfamiliar with the name of the Heaven Empyrean. Who didn't know that the Heaven Empyrean had unified the immortal realms? Even for those who had never left the city of ancient emperors before, they all knew about it. Because, the name of the Heaven Empyrean had long spread to every corner of the immortal realms. It was the same in the city of ancient emperors as well. As long as one was powerful enough, they would definitely know about it. The Heaven Empyrean had given the order to seal the city of ancient emperors. How tyrannical were these words? Although they didn't understand, they still madly sped towards the exit point, preparing to use the teleportation arrays to leave this place. Hence, the teleportation arrays in the city of ancient emperors were activated unceasingly. The experts in the city of ancient emperors were all fleeing madly as waves of shock rocked their hearts. A day later, in this vast sea region, a supremely powerful sealing technique manifested, blotting out the sun, wanting to seal this entire space. The experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms could enter the city of ancient emperors. Naturally, it wasn't for no reason. This was because the city of ancient emperors was connected to the upper world. But as long as it was sealed, the connection between the city of ancient emperors and the upper world would naturally be severed. There was naturally no need to doubt Di Tian's sealing abilities. When the entire space turned into a screen of sealing light, the entire sea region was like a gigantic sealing diagram. Boundless runic light shone from the sky, locking down the city of ancient emperors, completely enveloping it. After that, Di Tian left the city of ancient emperors. In the sealed space, a roar of rage rang out, filled with humiliation and reluctance. Once, he had found the next protector of the city of ancient emperors and was prepared to pass the inheritance to him. However, because of the arrival of the Tao element, the era had changed and he had to make a new choice. But never in his wildest dreams did he expect that when that person came here again, it was no longer about the inheritance. Instead, he directly ordered his subordinates to seal the city of ancient emperors. In fact, even Qin Wentian himself didn't come. What attitude was this? Right now, he was the master of the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The city of ancient emperors was sealed by the Heaven Empyrean, causing another huge commotion. Many people in the immortal realms were discussing this matter. In fact, there were even some who guessed that the Heaven Empyrean was worried that someone would break through to the ancient emperor realm and surpass him, threatening his position. However, such voices were soon drowned out by saliva. Would the Heaven Empyrean fear an ancient emperor? Don't forget how the Heavenly Talisman realm and the Jiang clan broke apart. How did those ancient emperors die? Since the Heaven Empyrean wanted to seal the city of ancient emperors, he naturally had his own reasons. Right now, there were simply too many loyal followers of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was the god of azure mystic, a supreme existence. No one would doubt him. And as expected, after that, news circulated out. Right now, the Heaven Empyrean was currently in the Heaven Empyrean Palace, guiding the immortal emperors of the various peak powers in their cultivation, imparting them the method to break through to the immortal emperor realm. This caused countless people to feel envy. The Heaven Empyrean personally nurtured the various peak powers, hoping that Azure Mystic would grow stronger. Would he seal the city of ancient emperors because of his jealousy? This was clearly something impossible. Just when everyone was speculating, in the northern regions of the Immortal Realms, in the forbidden grounds of the original Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, many Empyreans from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms arrived. At this moment, Qin Wentian actually arrived at the Wenxin Temple, the only power that refused to move to the Heaven Empyrean City. Chapter 1712. After the passage of countless years, the Wenxin Temple now exuded a tranquil and peaceful aura. Within a treasured temple, the Reverend Tianxin of the Ascart Temple sat on a praying mat while Qin Wentian sat opposite him. Beside him, a novice monk around the age of 10 was busying himself, moving some jade slips and ancient scrolls into the space between the Reverend Tianxin and Qin Wentian. These were all ancient scrolls of the Ascart Temple that had been passed down for a long time. "Master, I've brought them all." The young novice monk pressed his palms together as he spoke to the Reverend. "Okay, Wu Xin, you can leave now." Reverend Tianxin nodded to the young novice monk. The young novice monk then bowed to Qin Wentian. "Benefactor Qin, Wu Xin bids his farewell." "Many thanks." Qin Wentian smiled as he nodded his head. The little novice monk then departed. "Reverend, this disciple of yours is truly impressive." Qin Wentian laughed. "Indeed, he has great wisdom." Reverend Tianxin nodded. His gaze landed on the ancient scrolls before him as he continued, "These are the only things left in our temple. Benefactor Qin, please take a look." "Many thanks, Reverend." Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he took the jade slips and ancient scrolls over. His immortal sense seeped into the jade slips and instantly, he obtained many pieces of information. After that, a sharp light flashed in the center of his brows. After that, he flipped through the ancient scrolls and instantly, many ancient characters were imprinted into his mind, transforming into motes of light. Qin Wentian flipped through the pages unceasingly as more and more ancient characters floated into his mind. Qin Wentian slowly flipped through the ancient scrolls. The interior of the temple was extremely quiet, there was no sound at all. Reverend Tianxin also didn't disturb him and closed his eyes to rest, like an old monk in meditation. After a long time, Qin Wentian finally finished reading. His eyes flashed with a resplendent light as his heart was unable to calm down for a long time. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath, doing his best to suppress the shock in his heart, calming himself down. He didn't expect that the records in the ancient records of the Ascart Temple would actually be so shocking. There was a high possibility that these ancient records were the only copies in Azure Mystic. He didn't expect that the 33 immortal realms all had their own boundless histories. The supreme ancient immortal realms evolved through countless years and became the strongest immortal realms. However, the lower worlds all had their own glory. The Azure Mystic immortal realms once also had a glorious history. The Azure Mystic today is actually not the ancient Azure Mystic. Qin Wentian mumbled, feeling somewhat shocked. "Grandmaster, do you know where ancient Azure Mystic is located?" Qin Wentian asked Reverend Tianxin. Ancient Azure Mystic didn't refer to the changes of the era. It was just that the current Azure Mystic was incomparably vast, it might just be a small corner of ancient Azure Mystic. "I have no idea. However, the people of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms most probably came here because of this. I wonder if these characters who are at the Empyrean realm would be able to find the entrance to ancient Azure Mystic." Reverend Tianxin shook his head. Although Azure Mystic is vast, the Immortals, the myriad Devil Islands, the desolate 10,000 mountain range are all extremely vast. But even so, it is still much smaller when compared to the supreme ancient immortal realms. The size of a single world is already comparable to the current Azure Mystic or even surpasses it. In the past, I've never thought about this because I wouldn't think about it in this direction. Only now did I realize that the Azure Mystic immortal realms we know of is actually not ancient Azure Mystic. The world-ending war recorded in the ancient books, how terrifying was it exactly? Qin Wendian sighed in his heart. The jade slips and ancient books in the Wenxin Temple actually contained heaven-shaking secrets. There were some records regarding the Azure Mystic immortal realms. It said that their Wenxin Temple's inheritance originated from ancient Azure Mystic. However, because of that world-ending war, the entire world was annihilated, the lives of the people were plunged into misery and suffering. The entire Azure Mystic was razed to flat ground. If things were really like what was recorded in the ancient books, then the word, world-ending, wasn't an exaggeration at all. This was simply too terrifying. A world in the 33 immortal realms was destroyed. What level of war was this exactly? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was a world-ending war. After that, some survivors managed to escape from the world-ending war. However, the people of Azure Mystic were already destroyed, their homeland was already buried. They actually couldn't find the Azure Mystic of the past anymore. In the ancient books, an ancestor of the Wenxin Temple used a single sentence to describe this change. When you wake up from a dream, the heavens have already changed. Most probably, the current Azure Mystic was developed by the survivors of that world-ending war. Most probably, countless years had passed and it was basically impossible to verify. The history of the Wenxin Temple was so long that it caused the hearts of many to tremble. It could be said that it had grown up together with Azure Mystic until now. Maybe, this was also the reason why the Wenxin Temple insisted on only having a small number of their disciples enter the world. Their attitude was unyielding yet peaceful, they didn't want to compete but they would never be bullied by others. They didn't compete because they knew of the existence of ancient Azure Mystic and the history of the world-ending war. In that case, what was there to compete for in Azure Mystic? Naturally, this was the transcendent nature of the Wenxin Temple's abbot. The people in the temple might not know of this period of history and there might be people with different personalities appearing. But as long as the abbot didn't change, the will of the inheritance wouldn't change. They didn't want to be bullied by others because of their history. As the most ancient power in Azure Mystic, the Wenxin Temple naturally had its own pride. Also, sometimes, the pride of the Wenxin Temple would cause people to feel fear in their hearts. They wouldn't bully others, but they would never be bullied by others either. Many powers in the immortal realms felt reverence in their hearts towards the Wenxin Temple. This was also because they didn't know how long the history of the Wenxin Temple was. If not, the reverence in their hearts would be even stronger. Reverend, who do you think the person who sealed Azure Mystic is? Qin Wendian asked again. How would I know? However, I'm afraid it has something to do with that existence who described the world-ending war in the ancient books. Reverend Tianxin was as calm as ever. But back then when he read about this period of history, great waves of shock rose up in his heart. I feel the same way as well. Qin Wendian nodded. In the ancient records, ancient Azure Mystic was once a unified power. The entire boundless Azure Mystic immortal realms had a Heaven Lord. This Heaven Lord was known as the Imperishable Heaven Lord in ancient times. The Imperishable Heaven Lord was the master of ancient Azure Mystic. This naturally wasn't something the Heaven Empyrean today could compare to. That was ancient Azure Mystic, one of the true 33 heavens. It was an incomparably tyrannical power. How powerful was a Heaven Lord? If he wasn't powerful, how could so many powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms allow the Imperishable Heaven Lord to rule the world? Now that Azure Mystic was sealed, Qin Wendian guessed that this had something to do with the Imperishable Heaven Lord. In addition, that world-ending war in the supreme ancient immortal realms was said to have happened because of the Imperishable Heaven Lord. When the heavenly deities descended, countless people directly prostrated themselves on the ground. Their might was unstoppable, capable of shaking the heavens. With a wave of their hands, the sun and moon lost their luster, mountains and rivers crumbled, the earth split apart, the seawater flowed in reverse, and lava from hell erupted from the earth's core. Everywhere they passed by, everything was destroyed. There were also heavenly deities summoning world-ending divine lightning, turning everything into ashes. Immortals and devils wept, emperors and emperors turned into skeletons. At this moment, the imperishable Heaven Lord appeared in the air, fighting against the heavenly deities in rage. The imperishable Heaven Lord wanted to shift the battlefield to the starry skies, but the other heavenly deities were unwilling. They directly fought the imperishable Heaven Lord in the airspace above Azure Mystic. That battle was extremely tragic and there were heavenly deities who died. The imperishable Heaven Lord was also heavily injured, but he still managed to force the other heavenly deities to retreat. However, the people of Azure Mystic were plunged into misery and suffering. What was even more terrifying was that not long after, even more heavenly deities descended from the sky, bringing with them many heavenly soldiers and generals. The imperishable Heaven Lord commanded the world and the generals of Azure Mystic followed him, fighting alongside him. This battle was known as the Dusk of the Deities. The blood of the heavenly soldiers and generals dyed the heavens and earth red. The generals of Azure Mystic fell one after another. They used their bodies to protect Azure Mystic, and when they saw the deaths of their generals and generals, the lives of Azure Mystic were destroyed. The imperishable Heaven Lord transformed into a mountain and river, activating a forbidden art, sacrificing himself to bury the heavenly deities and Azure Mystic. This was an ancient record of that battle. It was very short, but these words were sufficient to shake the hearts of those who saw it. The ancestor of Winshin Temple was actually one of the lucky survivors. He must have personally witnessed that battle and hence, he recorded it down and sealed it in the ancient book. Who would have thought that after countless years, these ancient books were still preserved? Also, it was very possible that these were the only ancient books in Azure Mystic that had records of the world-ending battle. What sort of existences were heavenly deities? It was unknown if the expert who left behind this ancient book knew about it or not. A foreign heavenly deity brought many immortal soldiers and generals to participate in this battle. There was a high possibility that this heavenly deity came from a major power in the supreme ancient immortal realms and was a supremely terrifying power. The imperishable Heaven Lord fought the heavenly deity head-on and even forced him to retreat, killing him. It was simply unimaginable how powerful the imperishable Heaven Lord was. He was just a mere heaven empyrean. In front of the imperishable Heaven Lord, he was nothing more than an ant. But in truth, Qin Wentian also had some suspicions. Since the imperishable Heaven Lord might have already been destroyed, who could have such terrifying power to seal Azure Mystic? What sort of existence was that? Could it be that the imperishable Heaven Lord didn't die and was still alive? In that case, if this was the case, it would truly be too terrifying, able to live from the ancient times until now. Naturally, this was only a guess, no one knew if it was true or false. But there was no need to doubt that the person who sealed Azure Mystic must be extremely powerful. If not, he wouldn't have such capabilities. Benefactor Qin, do you have any thoughts after reading it? Reverend Tianxin asked Qin Wentian. Reverend, do you also wish to find ancient Azure Mystic? Qin Wentian asked. This should be the obsession of my ancestor. It's just that now, another supremely powerful expert from the supreme ancient immortal realms has descended. How similar is this scene? Luckily, the experts who descended this time around shouldn't be as powerful as the ones recorded in the ancient records. If not, it would surely be another calamity. Reverend Tianxin pressed his palms together as he spoke. That's true. Qin Wentian nodded. Hence, Benefactor Qin is now the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic and is akin to the Heaven Lord of ancient Azure Mystic. In the future, the people of Azure Mystic will have to rely on Benefactor Qin. Reverend Tianxin bowed to Qin Wentian. Reverend, there's no need to do this. Qin Wentian stretched his hand out. Leaving aside the fact that there might not be a world-ending war like in the past, even if there is, it wouldn't be an apocalypse. Since I'm the Heaven Empyrean, I naturally have to protect Azure Mystic. Hence, after this matter is concluded, I will leave the azure mystic immortal realms. In that case, many thanks. Reverend Tianxin spoke again. Qin Wendian sighed. Reverend Tianxin's heart truly cared about the world. Chapter 1713. After the azure mystic immortal realms was unified, the world was calm. However, there seemed to be undercurrents surging in the dark. After Qin Wendian left the Wenqin temple, there was still a trace of worry in his heart. He didn't know who was the one who sealed the azure mystic immortal realms. But now that the seal was relaxed, this meant that the other party might very well allow ancient azure mystic to reappear in the world. If this was the case, news of this would surely spread to the supreme ancient immortal realms. In that case, the various hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms would surely send their armies over. How vast was the supreme ancient immortal realms? How many peak powers were there? Ancient azure mystic has always been a legend, it hasn't appeared in the real world yet. This caused the heavenly talisman realm and the other hegemonic powers to covet it and have been waiting in azure mystic. If ancient azure mystic was truly unearthed, given how powerful the supreme ancient immortal realms were, even if those Empyreans didn't use teleportation arrays, they would still be able to teleport here. If Empyreans needed time to teleport, what if the other party sent world overlords or characters with a higher cultivation base to escort them here? Also, one could be sure that this was inevitable. A buried world where a world-ending battle once erupted, where many heavenly deity-level characters died, how strong would the allure of this place be? Even if it was a treasure left behind by a fallen heavenly deity in the lower realms, it would still be sufficient to attract countless experts to risk their lives. In any case, Qin Wendian understood that once ancient azure mystic was exposed, this world wouldn't be as peaceful as it was now. During these days, Qin Wendian enjoyed a rare moment of peace. His family and friends were still around, and other than explaining the Tao of cultivation to the experts of the various hegemonic powers, he would accompany his family and friends. Naturally, the majority of his time was spent accompanying Qing'er and Qingcheng. During these days, Fan Lu was extremely jealous of Qin Wendian. This was because Qin Wendian was surrounded by beauties. Qing'er and Qingcheng were already married to him and they were both his wives. But even so, Nam Huang Yunxi, Nan Feng Shinga, Yiling Shuang, Luo Huan, Qin Yao, Bai Qing and Purgatory, which one of them weren't extremely beautiful? Each of them had their own merits. Nam Huang Yunxi was noble, Nan Feng Shinga was beautiful, Luo Huan was sexy, Qin Yao was gentle, Lu Bingyu was cold and aloof, Bai Qing had the transcendent aura of a priestess of blood, Purgatory had a seductive charm and pure sexiness, as well as the beautiful fairies from the Jadestage Immortal Palace taking the initiative to visit them. This caused Fan Lu to sigh in admiration. At this moment, in the courtyard of the Heaven Empyrean Palace, beauties were as common as the clouds. Laughter filled the air, causing Fan Lu to be extremely jealous of Fan Lu. Wendian, now that you have a beauty in your arms, your senior sister is still single. Senior sister treated you so well in the past, but now that you are the Heaven Empyrean, what do you plan to do? With so many beauties surrounding him, Qin Wendian found it hard to endure. This was especially so for his senior sister Luo Huan. She had always been shooting her mouth off and would occasionally tease him. Senior sister, what can I do? Don't tell me you want me to introduce you guys to you. Qin Wendian bitterly smiled. Luo Huan giggled and winked at Qin Wendian. You can consider taking all of me as your senior sister. The beauties all started when they heard Luo Huan's words. Their laughter abruptly stopped as many people turned to Qin Wendian. This atmosphere was a little strange. It seemed like Luo Huan's words also represented the thoughts of others. Qin Wendian had a face filled with black lines. He sneakily glanced at Qing'er and Mo Qingcheng at the side only to see Mo Qingcheng smiling sweetly. Senior sister, if you had said this earlier, you would have gotten him to marry both of us a few days ago. Now that you have entered the Heaven Empyrean Palace, you would be even later than me and elder sister Qing'er. Wouldn't it be too unfair for senior sister? AI, seems like I can only die alone. Luo Huan bitterly sighed. Qin Yao smiled. Don't bully my Wendian anymore. You are so alluring, how can you die alone? Humph, Qin Yao, you better understand the relationship between us. Right now, Wentian already belongs to Qing'er and Qingcheng. You have to step aside. Luo Huan smiled. Her relationship with Qin Yao had always been extremely good. So what of it? I'm still his elder sister, Qing'er and Qingcheng. Don't you guys agree? Qin Yao gently spoke. Naturally. Mo Qingcheng smiled warmly. Qing'er also smiled as she watched everyone chatting. The atmosphere was truly lively. So many people are helping him. This miss is so pitiful. Luo Huan felt wronged. That can't be. Right now, Sir Qin is already the Heaven Empyrean of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. There are many immortal kings and emperors in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms who have many concubines and concubines. The status of the Heaven Empyrean naturally wouldn't be inferior. Sir Qin is already married, he won't snatch the position of the wife, but he still has concubines. Why don't Sir Qin pick a few? What do you think about the holy maiden of my clan? The beautiful Nanfeng Shinga actually joked, her words causing Nam Huang Yunxi's expression to stiffen. She glared at Nanfeng Shinga. What nonsense are you talking about? Did I say something wrong? Nanfeng Shinga smiled. Naturally. Nam Huang Yunxi replied. I understand. Our holy maiden doesn't want to be a concubine. Nanfeng Shinga continued joking. Qin Wentian smiled at the two of them. Nam Huang Yunxi glanced at Qin Wentian as her beautiful eyes flickered. You guys are intentionally trying to frame Wentian. Qin Yao giggled as she stared at Qing'er and Qingcheng. Qingcheng even intentionally played along and pinched Qin Wentian, causing all the maidens to laugh. Bai Qing watched everything from the back. A smile still hung on her face. The cold-blood emperor was like a little girl at this moment, revealing a radiant and innocent smile. She didn't say anything and only quietly watched everything. Being able to see her Wentian Gige so happy and blissful, she was already very satisfied. If she could continue watching him like this, how beautiful would that be? Elder Sis Qing'er and Elder Sis Qingcheng were both so beautiful and deeply in love with Wentian Gige. They would definitely be able to live a very, very good life. Little Qing, come over here. Qin Wentian called out when he saw Bai Qing smiling foolishly at the back. Bai Qing started, she stared at Qin Wentian in a daze as she walked over and called out, Wentian Gige. Qin Wentian stretched out his hand and tousled Bai Qing's hair. His gaze was filled with doting love. This little lass was still the same as when she was young. Her smile was so pure and beautiful, causing people to forget all their troubles. In the future, will you cultivate on the myriad Devil Islands or follow Wentian Gige? Qin Wentian gently asked. Can I follow Wentian Gige? Bai Qing inclined her head and giggled foolishly. Naturally you can, as long as little lass Qing is willing. Qin Wentian rapped her head twice. In that case, I will follow Wentian Gige to cultivate. Bai Qing giggled foolishly. Okay. But if you follow me, you might encounter danger. It won't be as safe as staying on the myriad Devil Islands. Qin Wentian's voice was gentle. I'm not afraid. Bai Qing shook her head resolutely. Silly lass. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Qing as he thought back to when she was young. She was such a pure and kind young lady. It was unknown how much hardship she had to endure to reach her current state. From an ordinary mortal, she became the Blood Priestess, the Blood Emperor. Although Qin Wentian didn't see it personally, he could imagine how much hardship she had to go through. Everyone chatted for a long time before the beauties bid their farewells and left, returning to their own residences. Only Qin Wentian, Qing'er and Qingcheng remained. Little rascal was also brought away by purgatory, he didn't want to be a hindrance here. Mo Qingcheng laughed as she stared at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to shiver involuntarily. Staring at Mo Qingcheng's smile, his heart shuddered. Despite knowing the answer, he still asked, Qingcheng, what's wrong? There are so many beauties casting flirtatious glances at you, how do you feel? Mo Qingcheng giggled. Earlier, although everyone was joking, given Qing and Mo Qingqing's intelligence, how could they not tell that if Qin Wentian nodded his head, at least half of the beauties here would fall in love with Qin Wentian? If not, why would they joke about him so casually? Luo Huan's personality could be said to be like this, but Nan Fengxinge and Nam Huang Yunxi were both holy maidens. Qin Wentian had a face filled with black lines. Mo Qingqing smiled sweetly when she saw Qin Wentian's expression. She walked towards Qin Wentian and helped Qin Wentian to straighten his robes. Her beautiful eyes that were as bright as the stars stared at Qin Wentian, filled with gentleness as she spoke. Actually, many of them are good girls. Elder sister Qing and I both understand that there will be many good girls who like you. If you really like someone, elder sister Qing and I won't blame you. It's fine as long as you are happy. Qin Wentian lowered his head and stared at Mo Qingqing's gentle eyes. They were so beautiful and clear, without any impurities, only the purest love. He then glanced at Qing, who was beside him. Qing nodded her head lightly and didn't say anything. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with boundless gentleness. He pulled Mo Qingqing into his embrace and pulled Qing over as well, allowing them to lean against his chest as he spoke in a gentle voice, "Silly lass. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for?" Time flowed by. After the world was unified, the aftermath of the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean still existed. However, the war had truly calmed down. The various hegemonic powers were now under the direct control of Qin Wentian. How could there still be any large-scale battles in the immortal realms? The demons of the desolate mountains also behaved themselves. Everything seemed to be very peaceful. In the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, there were some mysterious places where experts could be seen. Also, these experts were all supremely terrifying existences. These were all explorers from the supreme ancient immortal realms. At this moment, in the northern regions of the immortal realms, in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, in the depths of the immortal mountain of laws, there were many figures currently exploring the secrets of the Forbidden Ground. They saw many strange phenomena in the Forbidden Ground. For example, the zombies. Some of the zombies could actually attack and were extremely powerful. This simply didn't make sense. But the more this was so, the more interested they were. They continued exploring the depths of the immortal mountain of laws, arriving at the ruins of the Forbidden Ground. Relying on their powerful strength, they continued venturing deeper. After a very long time, they passed by many strange places. There were a few figures who spent several months here. In fact, they didn't even know where they were now. They simply couldn't imagine that there would actually be such a place in Azure Mystic that caused them to be trapped here. Today, the few of them came to a place. After they killed a few powerful zombies, they saw a gate.